multiverse is a tapestry woven from infinite threads of reality, each governed by its own immutable laws. Science and myth rarely intersect. One builds civilizations among the stars, the other shapes worlds through will and divine blood. But when a thread from one cosmos tears through into another, when warships built to fight gods of a different kind crash into a realm where gods bleed and die by mortal hands, reality itself must reconcile the impossible. This is the story of what happened when humanity's greatest defenders fell into a universe where humanity had already learned to kill its makers. The dimensional wound opened without warning above Midgard's northern wastes, a gash in reality that bled wrong colors, hues that existed between physics and magic, science and sorcery. Two massive shapes tumbled through the closing rift, trailing fire and sparking energy shields. The UNSC Infinity, humanity's greatest warship, 5.7 kilometers of runic-enhanced military engineering, plummeted through skies that had never known spacecraft. Behind it, spinning violently, came the Spirit of Fire, smaller but no less formidable, its hull scarred from decades of impossible battles. The Infinity's impact carved a canyon through frozen mountains, its emergency thrusters screaming as Captain Thomas Lasky fought to prevent total destruction. Metal shrieked against stone older than human civilization. The ship's bow crumpled, but the Forerunner-reinforced superstructure held. Klaxons wailed through corridors as thousands of personnel scrambled to damaged stations. On the bridge, Lasky gripped his command chair, blood running from a gash on his forehead. "Report," he commanded, his voice cutting through chaos. "Slip space drive is dead, sir," navigation called out. "We're reading..." "Captain, we're not reading normal space at all. The dimensional framework is completely foreign. It's like we've fallen into another universe," Lasky finished grimly. "Weapon status?" "Mac guns operational. Missile pods green. Energy shields at 60% and holding. Sir, the Spirit of Fire survived entry. They're 2 clicks west, hull intact but grounded." The Spirit of Fire had fared somewhat better, its smaller size allowing Captain James Cutter to guide a more controlled crash landing. The colony ship turned warship settled into a glacial valley, its manufacturing bays already humming as automated systems began damage assessment. On the Spirit's bridge, Cutter stood with his arms crossed, studying sensor readings that made no sense. "Professor Anders, tell me you have something," he said to the scientist working frantically at her station. "Nothing good, Captain," Ellen Anders replied, her voice tight. "We're definitely not in normal space. I'm detecting energy signatures that don't match any known physics. Matter and energy seem to operate under different fundamental rules here. There's something else, massive power sources scattered, as if across this world. They read like stars, but localized, moving. The readings are biological, Captain." Serena's voice echoed through the bridge, the AI's tone carrying her characteristic dry wit despite their situation. "Or possibly divine, if you believe in that sort of thing. I'm detecting entities with energy outputs that rival fusion reactors, and they're noticing us." On the Infinity's hangar deck, Master Chief Petty Officer John 117 stood beside a Pelican dropship, running final checks on his Mjolnir armor. The Spartan II's motion tracker painted a chaotic picture. Thousands of personnel moving through the ship, damage control teams scrambling, Spartan ferries mustering at strategic points. His HUD showed shields at full capacity, all weapons green, armor integrity at 100%. "Chief," Captain Lasky's voice came through his helmet. "We need reconnaissance. Whatever world we've landed on, it's not uninhabited. Long-range sensors are picking up structures, settlements, and those power signatures Professor Anders detected. Something's approaching our position. Fast. I need you to take Fire Team Osiris and make contact. Rules of engagement are purely defensive until we understand what we're dealing with." "Understood," Chief replied, his voice calm despite their impossible situation. He'd survived the flood, the Didact, and Cortana's created uprising. Whatever this world held, he'd face it the same way he'd faced everything else, one mission at a time. The Pelican lifted off, its engines roaring as it banked through alien skies. Chief stood in the troop bay with Fire Team Osiris, Spartan Jameson Locke, Olympia Vale, Holly Tanaka, and Edward Buck. Through the open bay doors, they watched an impossible landscape unfold beneath them. Mountains that seemed carved by titanic hands. Forests where trees glowed with inner light. In the distance, a massive tree trunk rose beyond the atmosphere itself, its branches disappearing into dimensional rifts that hurt to look at directly. "Chief," Locke said, his voice carrying professional respect. "Sensors are going haywire. We're picking up a contact moving toward the crash site on foot. Speed is... that can't be right. 40 kilometers per hour over mountain terrain." "It's right," Tanaka confirmed. "Single target, humanoid. Energy signature is off the scale." Chief checked his MA-5D assault rifle, chambering around. "Weapons tight. Let's see who wants to meet us." If you want to see more crossover battles and unexpected universe collisions, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character and universe you'd want to see in the comments below. Let's explore the infinite together. The Pelican set down on a ridge overlooking both crash sites. The Spartans deployed in tactical formation, their shields shimmering as they activated. Chief's motion tracker picked up the contact immediately. 300 meters in closing, then 200, then 100. The figure that emerged from the tree line stopped their advance cold. He was tall, powerfully built, his skin marked with ash-white pigment that didn't quite hide the scars beneath. A red tattoo spiraled across his torso and left arm. In his right hand, he carried an axe that seemed to breathe frost into the air. On his hip hung twin blades wreathed in smoldering chains. But it was his eyes that truly registered. Golden, ancient, and carrying the weight of someone who had killed gods and felt every death. Kratos, the ghost of Sparta, former god of war, studied the metal warriors before him with the same intensity he'd once used to track prey across the fields of Elysium. These were not Hephaestus's automatons, not veneer magic, not any craft he recognized. Their armor bore no divine marks, no runic inscriptions, yet thrummed with contained power. The weapons they carried were strange, metal and mechanism where he expected enchantment and blessing. The largest warrior, marked by green armor where the others wore gray, stepped forward. His posture was cautious but not aggressive, respectful, a warrior's stance. "My name is Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, United Nations Space Command," Chief said, his voice amplified by external speakers. "Our ships were pulled here by accident. We mean no harm to this world or its people." Kratos' eyes narrowed. The words meant nothing to him, foreign sounds without context. But tone carried across any language. This warrior sought parley, not battle. For now. "You speak words I do not know," Kratos replied in the tongue of the Norse realms, his voice like grinding stone. "But I know warriors when I see them. Your metal shells, they protect you. Your weapons, they kill from distance." He gestured toward the massive ships scarring his homeland. "You arrive in fire and thunder, bringing metal mountains to Midgard. The realms have just survived Ragnarok. We do not need new wars." Chief's translator software caught nothing. The language matched no known database. He switched to hand signals. Universal gestures of peace, lowered weapons, open palms. Kratos understood those. Every warrior did. The ghost of Sparta planted his axe in the frozen ground and crossed his arms. Not a gesture of surrender, he would never surrender, but acknowledgement. These metal warriors had crashed here. They were stranded, not invading. The distinction mattered. "Mimir," Kratos said quietly, and for the first time, the Spartans noticed the severed head hanging from the warrior's belt. The head's eyes opened, glowing with ethereal light. "Well now," the head spoke, its Scottish accent incongruous with its grotesque nature. "This is a first. Brother, those metal suits aren't dwarf craft. Look at the precision, the integration of components. And those weapons, no magic I can sense, yet they fairly hum with potential energy. I'd wager we're looking at travelers from beyond the 9 realms entirely." Chief's translator suddenly activated, parsing the new voice. His HUD displayed, "Unknown language, acquiring structure, translation, progress, 34%. "Lock," Chief ordered. "Get comms back to Infinity. Tell Lasky we've made contact with a potentially hostile, possibly supernatural humanoid. Subject is armed with edged weapons, demonstrates no fear of Spartan personnel, and is accompanied by a living severed head." "Copy that," Locke replied, his voice carrying the faintest hint of disbelief. Kratos watched the metal warriors communicate through means he couldn't fathom. No speech, yet clearly coordinating. He'd seen divine communication before, telepathy between Olympians, but this felt different, mechanical. The realization settled over him with uncomfortable familiarity. These warriors were mortals, mortals who had transcended their limitations not through divine blessing or primordial power, but through craft and will. He knew that path. He'd walked it himself when he'd killed Ares with mortal hands. A sound made both groups tense, the crack of ice, the rumble of shifting snow. From the valley below, a massive shape emerged from the frozen lake. A Dreki, ice variant, its crystalline hide reflecting the pale sun as it roared challenge at the strange metal mountains that had invaded its territory. The creature was 30 meters long, its jaws capable of swallowing a warthog whole. Frost gathered around its maw as it prepared to unleash a breath weapon that could flash freeze entire war parties. Chief's training took over instantly. "Osiris, combat spread. Tanaka, target those wing joints. Buck, explosive rounds on the head. Vale, suppressing fire." The Spartans opened fire with synchronized precision. MA-5D assault rifles barked thunder, 7.62mm rounds hammering into crystalline hide. The Dreki's head snapped back, confused by this new form of attack. Then Buck's explosive rounds detonated against its skull, cracking ice scales and drawing first blood. The creature shrieked and launched into the air, wings beating with hurricane force. Kratos watched for exactly 3 seconds. Then he hurled the Leviathan axe with casual, terrifying power. The divine weapon crossed 200 meters in an eye blink, striking the Dreki's chest with the force of a ballista. The creature plummeted, crashing into the mountainside with earth-shaking impact. The Spartans' weapons fell silent. Kratos extended his hand. The Leviathan axe tore itself from the Dreki's corpse and flew back to his grip, trailing frost and blood. He met Chief's visor with those ancient eyes, and in that moment, recognition passed between 2 warriors who had survived impossible wars. The ghost of Sparta had just demonstrated that in this world, physics took a distant second place to raw, undeniable power. And Master Chief realized their weapons, their armor, their technology, all of it might not be enough. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. Chief's threat assessment protocols cycled through scenarios, each more improbable than the last. The axe had returned to the warrior's hand without touching it. No magnetic recall, no propulsion system his sensors could detect. pure impossibility made manifest. His shield systems registered no energy discharge, no gravitational anomaly. The weapon had simply obeyed its master's will. Cortana would have had a theory, Chief thought, then pushed the memory away. He had no AI partner now, no one to explain the inexplicable. Just his training, his armor, and a situation that defied everything the UNSC understood about physics. Mimir's glowing eyes studied the metal warriors with undisguised fascination. "Brother, did you see how they fought? Coordinated, precise, no wasted movement. That's not berserker rage or divine fury, that's discipline, training. These warriors have fought battles we can't even imagine, I'd wager." Kratos nodded slowly. He'd recognized the same thing. The way they'd spread out, each taking position without verbal command. The way their weapons had tracked the Drekki's movement with mechanical precision. This wasn't his first encounter with organized military force. He'd commanded Spartan armies, destroyed Roman legions, shattered Einherjar formations. But these warriors operated with an efficiency that suggested battles against foes far more terrible than any he'd faced. "Lower your weapons," Kratos said, gesturing downward. The words meant nothing to the metal warriors, but the intent was clear. He pointed to his axe, now hanging loosely at his side, then to their strange metal instruments of war. Chief considered for exactly 2 seconds. Then he maglocked his rifle to his armor's thigh plate. Fire Team Osiris followed his lead, though Buck kept his hand near his sidearm. Old ODST habits died hard. "Translation progress is accelerating," Vale reported, her voice carrying the analytical excitement of UNSC's best linguist. "The AI in our systems is pulling grammatical structure from their speech patterns. We should have basic communication in approximately 4 minutes. 4 minutes could be a lifetime in combat." Chief needed to bridge the gap faster. He reached up and disengaged his helmet seals with a hiss of equalizing pressure. The frozen air of Midgard hit his face, colder than Reach, cleaner than Earth, carrying scents of pine and something older, something that tasted like thunder and iron. He lowered the helmet, letting the warrior see his face. Human, scarred, exhausted, real. Kratos' expression didn't change, but Mimir let out a low whistle. "Well now, that's unexpected. Beneath all that metal and magic, begging your pardon technology, just a man. A hard man, I'll grant, but mortal flesh nonetheless. Like you then," Mimir continued, addressing Kratos. "Started mortal, rose to godhood through strength and will, then chose mortality again. Perhaps these warriors walk a similar path. Mortals who've made themselves into something more through craft rather than divine blessing." The comparison struck deeper than the severed head knew. Chief had been taken as a child, augmented, trained to be humanity's defender against impossible odds, made into a weapon that walked like a man. Kratos saw it in the Spartans' eyes, that same hollow space where childhood should have lived, replaced instead with purpose and duty and endless war. "Spartan," Kratos said, the word coming unbidden. It was his word, his culture's word, but it felt right for these warriors. Chief's translator caught it, flagged it, began building linguistic bridges. The software worked frantically, comparing the warriors' speech patterns, vocabulary, contextual usage. Progress jumped to 78%. "Chief," Locke's voice came through internal comms. "Infinity reports contact from Spirit of Fire. They've deployed ground forces to establish a perimeter. 3 Scorpion tanks, multiple Warthog patrols, and Spartan Red Team has engaged multiple hostiles. Readings suggest large predatory creatures and..." "Sir, they're reporting humanoid combatants using what appears to be directed energy weapons without any technological source." "Casualties?" Chief asked. "Negative. Red Team reports hostiles broke off after initial contact. Jerome thinks they were probing defenses. Chief processed this. Multiple factions, testing responses, standard first contact protocol for advanced civilizations. But these weren't Covenant or Forerunner. This was something else entirely. His translator pinged. Translation protocol established, 89% accuracy. Can you understand me now? Chief asked carefully, his words emerging from his armor's speakers in a mechanical approximation of the Norse tongue. Kratos' eyes widened fractionally, the first true emotion the ghost of Sparta had shown. Your armor speaks the language of Midgard. How? Our technology learns, Chief replied, each word translated in real time. We've encountered many civilizations, many languages. We adapt. He paused, choosing his next words with care. My name is John. We are soldiers from a place beyond your sky, beyond the stars. We did not choose to come here. We were pulled through, a tear in reality itself. The realms have many names for such tears, Mimir interjected. Rifts in Yggdrasil's roots, wounds in the world tree's fabric. They're rare, brother, and dangerous. The Norns themselves fear what might slip through such openings. Norns? Vale asked, her linguistic curiosity overriding tactical protocol. Weavers of fate, Kratos answered, his voice carrying dark familiarity. They claim to know all futures, all destinies. They are wrong. Fate can be broken. I have proven this. The weight in those words suggested stories that spanned lifetimes. Chief filed it away. This warrior had fought beings that controlled destiny itself and won. The UNSC had faced the Didact, the Flood, even Cortana's created. But fighting fate? That was a different category of warfare entirely. We need to retrieve our people, Chief said. Thousands of them. 2 ships crashed. Many are injured. We need time to repair, to understand where we are. We are not your enemies. Perhaps not, Kratos replied. But enemies you will find nonetheless. The 9 realms have just survived Ragnarok, the end of all things. Odin is dead. Thor is dead. The Aesir are shattered. Power flows like blood through broken veins, and every creature with ambition seeks to drink. Your metal mountains, your warriors, your thunder weapons, they will draw attention. As if summoning the prophecy, a sharp crack split the frozen air. Reality bent above the valley, not a rift like the one that had brought the UNSC, but something more controlled, more deliberate. A column of rainbow light slammed into the snow 200 meters away, and when it faded, figures stood in its wake. 5 warriors emerged from the Bifrost light, their armor a mix of Asgardian design and battle-worn pragmatism. At their head walked a young woman who carried herself with Thor's unmistakable bearing. Broad shoulders, fierce eyes, a great warhammer gripped in both hands. This was Thrud, daughter of Thor, one of the few surviving Aesir of any significance. Behind her came 4 Einherjar, Odin's legendary warriors, chosen from the greatest fighters in Valhalla. Their eyes glowed with spectral blue light, and their weapons hummed with runic enchantments that made Chief's radiation sensors spike. Well, Mimir muttered, this just got significantly more complicated. Thrud's eyes swept across the scene with practiced tactical assessment. She saw Kratos first, of course she did. The ghost of Sparta was impossible to miss. Then the metal warriors surrounding him, their strange armor and stranger weapons. Her grip on Thrud's hammer tightened. Kratos, she called out, her voice carrying divine authority despite her youth. What are these things? New creations of the dwarves? Weapons left by the Aesir? Or invaders from realms unknown? They are survivors, Kratos replied carefully. Like you. Like all who remain after Ragnarok. Survivors. Thrud's laugh was bitter. They arrive in vessels that dwarf Asgard's greatest warships. They carry weapons that kill without magic. They stand before you without fear, though you are the man who slew my father, my grandfather, and broke the cycle of the gods themselves. Her eyes blazed with barely controlled rage and grief. These are not survivors. These are conquerors. The Einherjar spread into combat formation, their spectral weapons raised. Chief's motion tracker lit up with hostile indicators. His hand moved toward his rifle. "Stand down," Kratos commanded, though which group he addressed remained deliberately unclear. "There will be no battle here. Not today." "You have no authority over Asgard's remnants," Thrud countered. "You who destroyed our pantheon, who shattered the order of the 9 realms. Why do you defend these metal demons?" "Because I have killed enough," Kratos replied, his voice carrying the weight of millennia. "And because they remind me of what I once was. Soldiers following orders, fighting wars not of their choosing, trying to protect those they love from gods who care nothing for mortal suffering." The words hit Thrud like physical blows. She'd heard stories of Kratos' past, whispered among the surviving Aesir. How he'd served the gods before destroying them. How he'd been used and betrayed. How his rage had consumed not just Olympus, but his own humanity. "They crashed here," Mimir added, his diplomatic tone cutting through the tension. "Pure accident, by all accounts. No hostile intent, no grand invasion. Just soldiers far from home, trying to survive in a world they don't understand." "Then they will submit to Asgardian judgment," Thrud declared. "They will accompany us to the remnants of the realm between realms, where the surviving gods will determine their fate." "Negative," Chief said flatly, his translator rendering the military terminology into something approximating a warrior's refusal. "We answer to our own chain of command. We're willing to negotiate, to establish diplomatic relations, but we won't surrender our personnel or our ships." Thrud's eyes narrowed. "You dare refuse?" "I dare," Chief replied simply. The standoff crystallized. 2 groups of warriors, neither willing to back down, both carrying the scars of wars that had shattered worlds. Kratos stood between them, his ancient eyes calculating trajectories of violence, measuring the cost of the bloodshed that was seconds from erupting. Then the frozen lake exploded. Not another Dreki, something far worse. The ice shattered upward in jagged spears as a massive serpent form burst from the depths. Its scales were black as starless void, its eyes burned with sickly green light, and the stench of death and corruption rolled from its body in visible waves. This was no natural creature. This was something from Helheim. Death realm corruption made manifest. "Hellwalker serpent," Mimir breathed. "By Yggdrasil's roots, the seals are breaking faster than we thought." The creature's roar shook the mountains, and its attention fixed immediately on the greatest concentration of life force. The 2 crashed UNSC vessels in the valley below, filled with thousands of human souls. Thrud raised her hammer, lightning crackling around its head. The Einherjar charged forward, their spectral forms accelerating with supernatural speed. Kratos gripped the Leviathan axe, frost gathering like a storm, and Master Chief grabbed his rifle, because some choices transcend politics and first contact protocols. When monsters attack, soldiers fight. The battle for Midgard's frozen north had begun. The Hellwalker serpent moved with horrifying speed for something so massive. Its body, easily 60 meters from fanged maw to thrashing tail, coiled through the shattered ice like liquid shadow. Each scale wept green miasma that flash froze everything it touched, not with cold, but with the absolute absence of life. This wasn't a predator hunting prey. This was entropy given form, death seeking to unmake the living. Chief's tactical display struggled to classify the threat. His helmet's sensors painted contradictory data, biological readings mixed with energy signatures that shouldn't exist, mass calculations that defied physics, temperature readings that fluctuated between absolute zero and superheated plasma. The creature existed in direct violation of every natural law the UNSC understood. "All units, priority target," Chief commanded. Fire Team Osiris opened fire simultaneously, their MA-5D assault rifles creating a wall of lead. Tracer rounds illuminated the frozen air as hundreds of 7.60 mm bullets impacted serpent scales. Most ricocheted harmlessly, sparking against armored hide. Some penetrated, drawing black ichor that hissed and bubbled like acid on snow. The serpent didn't even slow. Thrud launched herself forward with divine fury, her father's thunder crackling around Thrud's hammer. She struck the creature's skull with a blow that should have shattered mountains. Lightning exploded outward in branching arcs, scorching scales and sending tremors through the frozen valley. The serpent's head snapped back, and for a moment, Chief thought the battle might end quickly. Then the creature's wound began regenerating, black flesh knitting together as hell's corruption fed the healing process. The serpent's jaws opened impossibly wide, and a stream of death mist vomited forth, the same green miasma that had consumed countless warriors in Helheim's depths. "Scatter!" Kratos roared, the first time the Spartans had heard genuine alarm in his voice. Beneath the fur, Einherjar warriors tried to evade, their spectral forms blurring with supernatural speed. 3 made it clear. 2 didn't. The death mist engulfed them, and their screams lasted exactly 1 second before their spiritual essence simply ceased to exist. No bodies fell. They were simply gone, erased from reality as thoroughly as if they'd never been. Chief's threat assessment protocols immediately elevated the creature to extinction-level danger. Whatever that mist was, it didn't just kill, it unmade. His shields wouldn't stop it. Nothing would. "Tanaka Buck, fall back to secondary position," he ordered. "Veil, lock, suppressing fire on the eyes. We need to blind it. Slow it down." The Spartans repositioned with practiced efficiency, their training overriding the instinctive horror of watching warriors simply cease to exist. Locke's DMR barked twice, precision shots that punched through the serpent's left eye. The creature shrieked, thrashing wildly, its tail sweeping through ancient pines and reducing them to splinters. Kratos didn't retreat. The ghost of Sparta had faced hydras, basilisks, and the world serpent itself. Size meant nothing. Impossibility meant nothing. Only the kill mattered. He hurled the Leviathan axe with devastating force, the weapon spinning through air that crackled with supernatural cold. The axe struck where Locke's rounds had already wounded, burying itself deep in the ruined eye socket. Kratos yanked his hand back, and the axe tore free, dragging chunks of necrotic flesh and splintered bone. The serpent's remaining eye fixed on Kratos with pure, mindless hatred. "That's right," Kratos growled. "Look at me." The creature lunged, jaws wide enough to swallow a warthog. Kratos didn't dodge. He dropped the Leviathan axe and reached for his back, drawing the blades of chaos in a movement so smooth it seemed choreographed. The chains wrapped around his forearms ignited with primordial fire. Not Norse flame, not Aesir magic, but something older. Olympian rage made manifest. He swung the blades in a devastating cross pattern, meeting the serpent's charge with elemental fury. Chaos flame carved through death-touched scales like they were parchment. The creature's forward momentum worked against it, its own weight driving it onto weapons that had killed gods and titans. Black ichor sprayed in arterial gouts as Kratos tore through muscle, sinew, and bone with systematic brutality. The Spartans watched in stunned silence as one man fought a kaiju-class threat in close quarters and won. Thrud saw her opening. She leapt skyward, hammer raised high, lightning gathering until the weapon blazed like a captured star. For Asgard! The hammer fell with divine wrath, striking the serpent's exposed spine where Kratos had torn through its defenses. Thunder detonated. The creature's back exploded in a shower of bone fragments and corrupted flesh. The serpent collapsed, its body convulsing in death throes that carved new channels through the ice. Green mist vented from dozens of wounds, dissipating into the frozen air. The creature's remaining eye glazed over, and its thrashing stilled. Silence reclaimed the valley, broken only by the hiss of melting ice and the crackle of dying fires. Chief's shield recharge indicator pulsed steadily. He hadn't even been hit. His ammunition counter showed 73 rounds expended. In UNSC terms, they'd barely engaged. But the two warriors who'd done the real damage, the aging god killer and the thunder god's daughter, stood amid carnage that would have required orbital bombardment to achieve. Threat neutralized, Locke reported, though his voice carried uncertainty that rarely appeared in Spartan communications. Kratos cleaned the blades of chaos with practiced efficiency, the chains rattling as they retracted. His breathing remained steady, his expression unchanged. Just another monster. Just another day. Thrud landed beside the corpse, her hammer's glow fading. She looked at Kratos, and something unreadable passed through her eyes. "You fight well, Ghost of Sparta, as always." "It was weak," Kratos replied. "Newly escaped from Helheim, starving. A strong one would have killed us all." "Comforting," Mimir muttered. "Brother, perhaps now isn't the time to discuss how much worse things could be." Chief approached carefully, his rifle still at low ready. Up close, the serpent's corpse defied conventional biology. Its flesh was already decomposing at accelerated rates, the hell corruption consuming even death itself. Within hours, nothing would remain but a stain on the ice. "That weapon," Chief said, gesturing to the blades of chaos still smoldering in Kratos' grip. "Fire that burns through supernatural armor. We could use intel on its composition, its energy source." Kratos' eyes fixed on the Spartan with dangerous intensity. "These blades were forged in Hades' domain and bound to my flesh by the god of war himself as payment for slaughter. They are fueled by rage, guilt, and the ashes of my murdered family. They cannot be replicated." The words carried such casual horror that even Chief, who'd seen the worst of the human covenant war, felt a chill that had nothing to do with Midgard's frozen air. This warrior didn't just carry weapons, he carried curses. "Understood," Chief replied, because sometimes tactical intelligence wasn't worth pushing. Thrud turned her attention to the metal warriors, her earlier hostility tempered by the shared battle. "You fought with discipline, strategy. My father would have called you cowards for using distance weapons. But my father was a fool who died choking on his own pride." The admission cost her, but she forced it out. "These Hellwalkers are appearing across the 9 realms. The seals that contained them during Ragnarok are weakening. Soon, armies of them will pour through." "How many?" Locke asked. "Thousands. Perhaps tens of thousands. Helheim's borders were never meant to be permanent. They required Odin's magic to maintain. With Odin dead..." She didn't need to finish. Chief's strategic assessment protocols kicked into overdrive. Thousands of those things, each capable of erasing matter with toxic breath. The UNSC had fought the Flood, but at least the Flood could be killed through conventional means. This was different. This was fighting an entire realm of existence that operated on rules designed to unmake life itself. "We need to contact our command structure," Chief said. "Captain Lasky needs this intelligence. If these creatures are going to attack in force, we need to coordinate defenses with whoever's in charge of this world's military." "There is no unified military," Thrud said bitterly. The Aesir are scattered. The Vanir remain neutral. Each realm guards its own borders. The age of Odin's empire is over. We are fractured, weakened, and the vultures are already circling. A sharp whistle cut through the conversation. All heads turned to see. Mimir's glowing eyes focused on the distant tree line. Speaking of vultures, we've got incoming. And brother, I don't think these are the friendly sort. Dark shapes emerged from the forest, dozens of them, moving with predatory coordination. They were humanoid but wrong. Their skin a sickly gray blue, their eyes burning with the same green light as the serpents. Hellwalkers, infantry variants, warriors who died and been claimed by Helheim's corruption before they could reach Valhalla or Folkvanger. Behind them came something worse, a Hell Reaver, twice the height of a man, its body a grotesque fusion of multiple corpses bound together by dark magic. In its massive hands, it carried a great axe that wept the same death mist. Defensive perimeter, Chief commanded. Fire Team Osiris formed a tight formation, their weapons trained on the approaching horde. Their motion trackers painted 47 hostiles and climbing. Thrud's remaining Einherjar took positions on the flanks, their spectral weapons glowing with renewed fury. Thrud herself crackled with barely contained lightning, her grief and rage seeking an outlet. Kratos simply stood his ground, his eyes calculating kill priorities with the efficiency of someone who'd survived 1,000 battlefields. We need to fall back to the ships, Locke suggested. Establish proper defensive positions with armored support. No, Kratos countered. We fight here. If they reach your metal mountains, your warriors inside will be slaughtered. The death mist will seep through corridors, killing before your people even understand the threat. Here, in open ground, we have advantage. Chief recognized tactical wisdom when he heard it. The ghost of Sparta was right. These corridors would be death traps against that mist. Better to hold the high ground. Agreed, Chief said. We hold this position. Thrud, can your warriors handle the flanks? The Thunder Goddess looked startled at being addressed as an equal partner, rather than a ruler to be obeyed. Then something like respect flickered across her face. The Einherjar have fought the dead before. We will hold. Then let's give them a welcome they won't forget, Buck said, chambering a fresh magazine. Or, they're already dead. So I guess they'll just forget again anyway. Now is not the time for jokes, Vale muttered. Sister, there is always time for jokes before we die horribly. The Hellwalkers charged with inhuman speed, their death-touched weapons raised. The Hell Reaver lumbered behind them, its massive bulk shaking the frozen ground with each step. Open fire, Chief ordered. The valley erupted in thunder of a different kind, the mechanical roar of UNSC weaponry meeting the howls of the damned. Tracer rounds carved glowing paths through the frozen air. Bodies exploded under high-velocity impacts. The Einherjar met the charge with spectral fury, their blessed weapons cutting through corrupted flesh. And in the center of it all, Kratos moved like death itself. The blades of chaos painting figure eights of fire and fury through the ranks of the dead. Master Chief fought beside a god-killer, surrounded by ghost warriors and thunder goddesses, defending a crashed starship against an army of the damned in a universe that shouldn't exist. Just another Tuesday for a Spartan. The battle became a symphony of contrasting warfare. UNSC rifles chattered with mechanical precision, each 3-round burst dropping Hellwalkers with headshots that scattered corrupted brain matter across frozen ground. The Einherjar fought with the fluid grace of warriors who trained for millennia in Valhalla's halls, their spectral blades carving through death-touched flesh with runic fire. And Kratos fought like a force of nature given purpose. Every movement, economy, and brutality perfected through countless wars. Chief's motion tracker painted the battlefield in cold tactical data. 47 hostiles had become 63. The forest was vomiting more Hellwalkers with each passing second. His ammunition counter ticked downward, 230 rounds remaining. Acceptable for now, but if this turned into a prolonged engagement, they'd need resupply. Tanaka, Buck, focus fire on the Reaver, Chief commanded. Lock, veil, suppression pattern on the left flank. Keep them off the Einherjar. The Spartans executed with textbook precision. Tanaka's DMR barked in steady rhythm, each shot punching through the Reaver's grotesque mass. Buck's assault rifle stitched a line of explosive rounds across its torso, detonating chunks of necrotic muscle. The creature bellowed, its voice the sound of graves opening, and swung its massive axe in a horizontal arc that would have bisected a scorpion tank. Thrud met the blow head-on. Thunderhammer struck Deathaxe with a crack that split the sky. Lightning detonated outward in a shockwave that sent Hellwalkers tumbling like leaves. The Reaver staggered, its multiple corpse heads shrieking in unified agony. "It's open!" Thrud shouted. "Strike now!" Kratos was already moving. He'd been waiting for exactly this, the moment when raw power created opportunity. The blades of chaos lashed out, their chains extending with supernatural reach. Fire-wreathed steel buried into the Reaver's exposed chest cavity, hooked around what might have once been a ribcage, and pulled. The Reaver's upper body tore free from its lower half in a spray of black ichor and snapping bone. The creature's death scream lasted 3 seconds before Kratos wrenched the blades free and whipped them through its collective skull, silencing it forever. The remaining Hellwalkers faltered. Whatever dark intelligence guided them recognized the threat hierarchy. The Metal Warrior's thunder weapons hurt. The Einherjar's blessed steel killed. But the ash-marked God-killer was ending them, body and corrupted soul. "They're retreating," Locke reported, pulling back into the forest. "No," Mimir corrected grimly. "They're regrouping. Hellwalkers aren't mindless undead like Draugr. They retain combat intelligence, tactical thinking. They've assessed the threat and decided frontal assault won't work. They'll try something else." "Flanking maneuver," Chief concluded. "Or they're calling for reinforcements." "Both, I'd wager," the severed head replied. "And brother, I hate to be the bearer of worse news, but your Metal Warrior's weapons? They're making noise that's carrying across the realms. Every faction within 100 leagues is going to want to know what's causing thunder that isn't Thor's." As if summoned by prophecy, new contacts appeared on Chief's motion tracker, not from the forest, from above. 3 shapes descended from the pale sky, their wings beating with mechanical precision that Chief's sensors finally recognized. Technology. Not magic. Actual engineered flight systems. The figures landed with heavy impacts, their armored boots cratering the ice. Dark Elves, Svartalfur warriors in armor that gleamed like oil on water, their faces hidden behind helmets that projected sensory data directly into their consciousness. Each carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy, crystals embedded in metal that pulsed with stolen light from Alfheim. The lead Dark Elf, taller than his companions, his armor bearing rank insignia that Chief's tactical database couldn't classify, raised one hand. His voice emerged from helmet speakers, translated through technology that predated human civilization by millennia. "Identify yourselves, metal-clad ones. By whose authority do you wage war in the aftermath of Ragnarok?" Chief's translator caught the words, rendered them into comprehensible speech. He stepped forward, rifle lowered but ready. "Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, United Nations Space Command. We're stranded here by accident, currently defending against hostile forces." The Dark Elf's helmet tilted, analyzing. "UNSC, United Nations, Space Command." He repeated the words like a linguist dissecting alien grammar. You claim to command space itself? Arrogant, even for those who arrive in vessels that dwarf Asgard's greatest ships. Not command, Chief clarified. Explore, defend. We're soldiers, not conquerors. All soldiers are conquerors given time and opportunity, the Dark Elf replied. His attention shifted to Thrud. Thunder Child, your father's blood still stains Svartalfheim's forges. Do you claim these metal demons as allies? I claim nothing, Thrud shot back, her hammer crackling with renewed energy. They fight the hell corruption. That makes them useful, not allies. Pragmatic. Your grandfather would approve. Oh wait, the ghost of Sparta killed him. The Dark Elf's attention settled on Kratos, with the wariness of someone who knew exactly what stood before him. And you, the God Butcher himself, how many pantheons will you destroy before you're satisfied? Kratos said nothing. He simply stared, the blades of chaos still dripping with Reaver ichor. The Dark Elf continued, My name is Svein of the Third Echelon. I speak for Lord Sindri of the Forge. Yes, that's Sindri, the broken smith who once called you friend. He wants nothing to do with you, God Killer, but he sent me to investigate the thunder that shook the realms. Now I see metal warriors with weapons that kill like dwarven rifles, but sound like nothing our forges have ever produced. Dwarven rifles? Tanaka interjected, her engineer's mind immediately intrigued. You have firearm equivalent technology? Svein's helmet turned toward her. We have weapons that throw metal seeds faster than arrows. Weapons that explode stone. Weapons that channel stolen light into beams that cut through steel. We are Svartalfheim. We do not wield magic like the Ljosalfar fools. We build, we craft, we engineer. Chief felt something click into place. The Dark Elves weren't just another fantasy race wielding swords and sorcery. They were technologists. In a universe dominated by magic and divine power, these beings had chosen the path of science and engineering. They were, in their own way, kindred spirits to the UNSC. Then you understand our position, Chief said carefully. We're stranded in a universe we don't understand, using the only tools we have, technology and tactics. We're not here to conquer, we're here to survive. Svein was silent for a long moment, his helmet sensors undoubtedly analyzing every word, every micro-expression, every electromagnetic emission from the Spartans' armor. Finally, Lord Sindri will want to see your weapons, your armor, your ships. He will want to understand how you've achieved what appears to be space travel. True space travel, not realm hopping through Yggdrasil's roots. That's not happening, Locke interjected. We don't share military technology with unknown parties. Then you'll die here, Svein replied simply. Your ships are crippled. Your slip-space drives, yes, I heard your warrior use that term, are non-functional. The hell corruption spreads. Asgard's remnants will demand your subjugation or destruction. The Vanir will seek to study you. Every realm lord will want to claim your metal mountains as prizes. Without allies, without understanding of the 9 realms' power, structure, you'll be dead within a week. The brutal honesty cut through diplomatic posturing. Chief recognized strategic truth when he heard it. Brother, Mimir spoke up. The elf speaks truth, however unpleasant. You can't fight every faction in the 9 realms. Even you have limits, though you hate admitting it. Kratos grunted acknowledgement. The dwarves are acceptable. They honor craft over divine heritage. They build rather than conquer. He fixed Svein with those ancient eyes. But Sindri is broken, mad with grief. His brother's death destroyed what kindness he possessed. Deal with him carefully. We know, Svein said quietly. We serve him not from fear, but from understanding. Grief and brilliance are often inseparable. His madness makes him cruel, but his genius remains unmatched. A new sound cut through the conversation, the distinctive roar of Pelican engines. Chief's helmet display lit up with friendly IFF tags. 3 dropships screamed over the ridge, their Duggar guns already tracking the remaining Hellwalkers in the forest. "Chief, this is Lasky." The captain's voice came through crystal clear on UNSC channels. "Spirit of Fire reports heavy contact with unknown hostiles. Spartan Red Team has neutralized immediate threats, but Captain Cutter is requesting joint tactical assessment. We need to consolidate our defensive position before nightfall." "Understood," Chief replied. "Be advised, we've made contact with multiple factions. Situation is complicated." "When isn't it?" Lasky's dry humor carried through. "Bring your new friends home, Chief. Let's see if we can avoid starting an interstellar incident in a universe that apparently doesn't have stars the way we understand them." The Pelicans descended, their landing struts extending. Marines poured out, establishing a proper perimeter with practiced efficiency. Chief watched Thrud and the Einherjar tents, saw Svine's hand drift toward his energy weapon. Both groups were assessing the new threat level. "Stand down," Chief ordered his people. Then to the others, "They're reinforcements, not an attack force. We're pulling back to our main defensive position. You're welcome to come as guests, not prisoners." "Guests of metal demons in metal mountains," Mimir mused. "Brother, we've fallen far from the days when you simply killed anyone who looked at you wrong." "I've learned," Kratos said simply. He began walking toward the Pelicans, not waiting for permission or invitation. "These warriors are not my enemies. Not yet." Thrud hesitated, then followed. "If these Hellwalkers are spreading, I need to know what weapons exist to fight them. Pride is a luxury we can't afford." Svein signaled his companions. "Lord Sindri will want our observations. Let us see what spacefaring mortals have built." Chief watched the unlikely procession load into the Pelicans. Spartans in Mjolnir armor standing beside Einherjar ghosts, UNSC Marines sharing space with Dark Elves, and a godkiller with a talking severed head hanging from his belt. The absurdity wasn't lost on him. "Locke," he said quietly on private comms. "This is going to get worse before it gets better." "Agreed," Locke replied. "But Chief, that warrior, Kratos, the way he fights. I've seen Spartans, I've fought alongside the best. But him? He's something else entirely. He doesn't fight like us. He fights like warfare is his native language." Chief had noticed the same thing. Kratos moved with the efficiency of someone who'd been at war since before Chief was born, probably before humanity had achieved spaceflight. Every motion was practiced brutality, every technique refined through endless application. "He's a weapon," Chief said. "Like us. Just older." The Pelicans lifted off, banking toward the UNSC crash sites. Below, the frozen valleys showed the scars of their first battle in this new world. Serpent corpse already decomposing into mist. Hellwalker bodies scattered like broken toys. Earth torn and scorched by weapons from 2 different realities. As they flew, Chief looked out at the impossible landscape. That massive tree rising beyond the atmosphere. Mountains that looked hand-carved by titans. A sun that felt wrong against his sensors, as if it existed only because the universe expected it to. Cortana would have loved this place. Would have had theories about dimensional physics, pantheon classification systems, the intersection of myth and quantum mechanics. But Cortana was gone, and Chief was alone in a universe where gods bled and died, where death itself could be fought, and where a Spartan's most reliable asset, his armor and weapons, suddenly felt inadequate against threats that operated on rules he didn't understand. The Infinity loomed ahead, its massive bulk a reassuring sight, 5.7 kilometers of human engineering, damaged but not broken. Home, or as close to home as they'd have, until they found a way back. If they could find a way back. Chief pushed the doubt away. Mission first, survival first, figure out the rest later. That's what Spartans did. The Infinity's hangar bay had been transformed into a fortified operations center. Scorpion tanks formed defensive barriers at the main entrance, their 90mm cannons trained on the alien landscape beyond. Marine fire teams occupied elevated positions, their battle rifles creating overlapping fields of fire. Automated turrets tracked movement with mechanical precision, their targeting lasers painting red dots across the frozen ground. Captain Lasky stood at the center of the organized chaos, his command tablet displaying tactical overlays that made less sense with each passing hour. The terrain mapping software kept glitching, insisting that certain mountains existed in multiple locations simultaneously. Atmospheric readings contradicted themselves. And the energy signatures Professor Anders had detected earlier now numbered in the hundreds, scattered across what the UNSC was tentatively calling local space, for lack of a better term. Captain, Commander Palmer approached, her Spartan forearmor bearing fresh scoring from whatever she'd encountered during perimeter establishment. Spartan Red Team reports success containing the perimeter. We've eliminated approximately 40 hostiles, mix of creatures that match no xenobiology database and humanoid combatants using edged weapons with technological augmentation. Jerome wants to know if we're classifying them as Covenant analogs. Negative, Lasky replied. This isn't the Covenant. This is something else entirely. Treat every contact as first contact protocol until we understand the political landscape. The Pelicans touched down with hydraulic hisses. Their cargo ramps lowered, and Lasky got his first look at the universe's native inhabitants. The ghost of Sparta emerged first, and every Marine in the hangar bay unconsciously tightened their grip on their weapons. It wasn't fear exactly. These were UNSC personnel. They'd faced the flood and lived. But something primal recognized a predator when it saw. 1. Kratos moved like violence constrained by will, and the ash-white skin marked with that red tattoo made him look like something that had crawled out of humanity's oldest nightmares. Then Lasky saw what hung from the warrior's belt, and his tactical assessment flew out the nearest airlock. A severed head, still alive, talking. Well now, Mimir said cheerfully, his glowing eyes scanning the hangar with undisguised fascination. This is something special. Brother, look at the craftsmanship. Those metal beasts, tanks, I think they called them. The engineering is exquisite. No magic I can detect, pure mechanical force multipliers. And those automated weapons tracking our movement, brilliant paranoia made manifest. Captain Thomas Lasky, Chief said, making introductions. This is Kratos, a warrior from this world, and Mimir, an advisor. Advisor is generous, Mimir replied. I'm a severed head who knows too much for my own good. Well, knew too much. Past tense. Odin solved that problem with an axe. Lasky's expression remained professionally neutral, though his eye twitched slightly. Welcome aboard the UNSC Infinity. We appreciate your assistance against the hostile forces. Thrud descended next, her hammer slung across her back, her eyes cataloging everything with tactical precision that wouldn't have been out of place in a UNSC officer. The Einherjar followed, their spectral forms causing sensor equipment to malfunction and Marines to whisper prayers to gods they'd stopped believing in decades ago. Then came the Dark Elves, and Lasky watched as Professor Anders nearly dropped her datapad. Captain, she breathed. Their armor, the energy signature. It's not magic, it's technology. Advanced material science, crystal-based energy storage, distributed computing architecture integrated directly into their combat suits. This is like finding The Forerunners? Lasky finished. I noticed. Svine's helmet swept across the hangar, analyzing, cataloging, assessing. Impressive. Your metal mountain is larger than Asgard's throne room. The craftsmanship is crude, too much reliance on brute force, not enough elegant integration, but the scale is admirable. Crude? Anders muttered indignantly. Effective, Svine amended. Crude, but effective. Sometimes that's all that matters. A new group approached from the hangar's far side. Captain James Cutter walked with the confidence of someone who'd commanded impossible situations before. His gray hair and weathered face testament to decades of service. Beside him strode 3 Spartans in Mark IV Mjolnir armor, older models than chiefs, but no less formidable. These were Spartan IIs, like Chief, survivors of the original program. Jerome 092 led them, his red-trimmed armor identifying him as Red Team's leader. Alice 130 moved on his left, her assault rifle held in ready position. Douglas 042 took the right, his posture suggesting he'd already calculated 15 ways to kill everything in the room that wasn't UNSC. Chief, Jerome said simply. The greeting carried weight, 2 Spartan IIs acknowledging each other across decades and impossible circumstances. Jerome, Chief replied. Good to see Red Team still operational. Could say the same about Blue Team's leader. Jerome's attention shifted to Kratos. This the native contact that took down a 60-meter hostile without armor support? That's accurate, Chief confirmed. Jerome studied Kratos with the analytical precision of someone who'd fought every nightmarish thing the galaxy could produce. Impressive. We could use warriors like that. I am not a warrior like anything, Kratos replied, his voice carrying that grinding stone quality. I am what remains when gods die and wars end, nothing more. Philosophical, Alice observed. Most contacts we make just try to kill us immediately. Give him time, Douglas muttered. Captain Cutter stepped forward, offering his hand to Lasky in the traditional greeting of commanders meeting under truce. Captain, Spirit of Fire is operational, but grounded until we understand local conditions. My engineers report the slipspace drive is completely non-functional, not damaged, just inactive. Like it's trying to operate in an environment that doesn't support the underlying physics. Infinity's experiencing the same thing, Lasky confirmed. Professor Anders. Anders pulled up holographic displays from her datapad, projecting them for the assembled group. Gentlemen, ladies, and entities, we have a problem. Our ships operate on principles of quantum tunneling through slipstream space, artificially created dimensional shortcuts that allow faster-than-light travel. But here? She highlighted regions of the display that flickered with impossible geometries. Space itself is structured differently. It's not that slipspace doesn't work, it's that the dimensional framework we're trying to access doesn't exist in this universe. So we're stranded, Palmer concluded. Until we understand the local physics, yes. Thrud had been watching the holographic display with growing fascination. You travel between worlds by cutting holes in reality, creating paths that don't naturally exist. Essentially, Anders confirmed. Like the Bifrost, Thrud said. The rainbow bridge that connects the 9 realms. It doesn't travel through space, it creates space, folds reality so distant places touch. Your slipspace sounds similar. Anders' eyes lit up with the fervor of someone presented with revolutionary theoretical breakthrough. If your Bifrost operates on similar principles, understanding its mechanics might let us adapt our drives. Can you explain how it works? I swing my hammer and shout for Heimdall, Thrud replied flatly. He controls the bridge, not me. Or controlled. He died during Ragnarok, defending the bridge from my father's madness. The brief hope in Anders' eyes died. Of course he did. However, Mimir interjected. I know the theoretical principles. Studied them for centuries before Odin decided my head looked better mounted on his belt. The Bifrost operates by manipulating Yggdrasil's roots, the world tree that connects all 9 realms. It's not technology in your sense. It's more like sympathetic resonance with the fundamental structure of reality. Find the right frequency, the right harmonic, and you can step from one realm to another. That's... Anders pulled up new calculations, her fingers flying across the interface. That's actually analogous to our quantum harmonics theory. Different terminology, same underlying principle. If we could interface our drives with this Yggdrasil structure. You'd need to understand magic, Svein interrupted. Or at least, what you call magic. The world tree isn't a physical structure you can scan with your sensors. It exists in the spaces between spaces, the dimensions you can't perceive with purely technological means. But you Dark Elves are technological, Anders countered. You said so yourself. How do you interface with these mystical systems? Svein's helmet turned toward her, and for the first time, genuine respect colored his voice. We don't. We steal. We adapt. We reverse engineer the Light Elves' crystal technology, corrupt the Aesir's runic systems, break down divine artifacts, and rebuild them as tools. We are scavengers of miracles, making them comprehensible through craft and persistence. We can work with that, Anders said immediately. Reverse engineering is our specialty. If you're willing to share knowledge, Lord Sindri will determine what knowledge is shared, Svein replied. But he respects those who build, who create. You spacecraft builders might interest him, despite your crude aesthetics. Lasky watched the exchange, recognizing opportunity crystallizing. It sounds like we need each other. You need our weapons against the hell corruption. We need your knowledge to repair our drives and return home. That's the basis for cooperation. Perhaps, Thrud said carefully. But cooperation requires trust. You arrive in metal mountains larger than anything the 9 realms have built. You wield thunder weapons that need no magic. You have warriors who fight like Einherjar, but claim no divine heritage. How do we know you're not simply another faction seeking dominance in Ragnarok's aftermath? It was a fair question. Lasky had asked similar things about the Sangheli after the Human Covenant War ended. You don't, Lasky admitted. Trust is earned through action, not words. But consider this. We've been in your world for less than 6 hours. We could have deployed our full military assets, established a hostile perimeter, treated every contact as enemy. Instead, Master Chief negotiated, fought alongside your warriors against common threats, invited you aboard as guests rather than prisoners. That's not the behavior of conquerors. It's the behavior of clever conquerors, Thrud countered. My grandfather Odin was master of such tactics. Befriend, ally, then dominate once defense is lower. Kratos spoke for the first time since entering the hangar. These warriors are not Odin. I have met Odin. These are different. The weight of those words silenced the debate. If the god killer himself vouched for them, it carried significance that transcended politics. Brother, Mimir said quietly, are you certain? You've been wrong about people before. I am not certain, Kratos admitted. But I recognize soldiers forced into impossible situations, trying to protect those they're responsible for. I see it in their leaders' eyes. The same exhaustion I carried after Sparta fell, after Olympus burned. They are warriors who want the war to end. Chief felt something uncomfortably like understanding pass between them. The ghost of Sparta saw through the armor, the augmentations, the tactical protocols, straight to the truth a chief rarely acknowledged even to himself. He was tired of fighting, tired of losing people, tired of being humanity's weapon when all he wanted was for humanity to not need weapons anymore. "Captain Lasky?" Jerome's voice cut through on command channel. "We have incoming. Multiple contacts approaching from the northwest, flying fast." The hangar's defensive systems activated immediately, turrets tracking skyward, Marines taking firing positions. On the tactical display, 9 contacts resolved. Humanoid, winged, armed. Valkyries. Mimir identified immediately. Odin's choosers of the slain. Well, former choosers. They were freed from his service after Ragnarok. Now they serve only themselves and the protection of worthy souls. The Valkyries descended through the hangar's open bay, their armor gleaming with divine craftsmanship that made even Forerunner artifacts look primitive. They landed in formation, their movements synchronized with the precision of elite military units. Their leader stepped forward, removing her helmet to reveal features carved from beauty and violence in equal measure. "I am Gundul," she announced, her voice carrying authority that needed no amplification. "We have felt the dimensional wound your arrival caused. We have watched you fight the hell corruption with weapons that defy understanding. We come to determine if you are allies, enemies, or something worse. Gods from beyond the 9 realms, seeking to establish dominion in the vacuum Odin left behind." Lasky straightened, meeting her gaze with naval officer's composure. "Captain Thomas Lasky, United Nations Space Command. We're explorers and defenders from Earth, a planet in a universe far from your 9 realms. We're stranded here by accident, seeking only to repair our ships and return home." "Earth," Gundul repeated. "A Midgard by another name. And you claim to be mortals?" "Enhanced mortals," Lasky confirmed. "But mortals nonetheless. We don't claim divine heritage or seek worship. We're just trying to survive." Gundul studied him, studied the assembled warriors, the massive ship around them. Her eyes settled on Chief. "You, step forward." Chief complied, his rifle mag-locked, hands visible. The Valkyrie circled him like a predator assessing prey. "You carry the weight of countless dead," she said quietly. "I can see their souls clinging to your spirit like morning frost. You are a chooser of the slain, like we once were. You decide who lives and who dies in battle. The burden has marked you, warrior. It bleeds from you like invisible wounds." Chief said nothing. What could he say? She was right. "These are soldiers," Gundul announced to her fellow Valkyries. "Not gods, not demons. Just mortals who have fought wars that scarred their souls. They are familiar." "Then you'll help us?" Lasky asked. "We will observe," Gundul replied. "And if you prove worthy, if you fight with honor against the darkness spreading across the realms, perhaps we will do more than observe. But know this, Captain Lasky. The 9 realms are watching. Your metal mountains have been seen by powers far greater than Dark Elves and broken thunder gods. The Norns weave new threads. The surviving Aesir sharpen their weapons. And in realms you haven't even heard of, ancient entities stir with curiosity and hunger. Let them come, Palmer said. We've fought gods before. Have you fought our gods? Gundul's smile was sharp as broken glass. The Aesir are not your gracious, benevolent creators. We are war and blood and poetry written in the entrails of our enemies. We are stories that end in fire and rebirth. If you've only fought gods who were merciful, Captain, you have not truly fought gods at all. The hangar fell silent, her words hanging like prophecy. Then alarms shrieked across all frequencies. The tactical display exploded with new contacts. Dozens, then hundreds, pouring through the forest toward both crash sites. Hellwalkers, Thrud identified grimly. Coordinated assault. They're not probing anymore. This is invasion. All hands, battle stations, Lasky commanded. This is not a drill. Seal bulkheads, deploy all ground forces. Spirit of Fire, you reading this? Confirmed. Cutter's voice came through. We're under assault as well. Heavy contact 3 directions. They're trying to overwhelm us through numbers. Chief checked his rifle, his shields, his ammunition. Beside him, Kratos gripped the blades of chaos. Thrud raised her hammer, lightning already crackling. The Valkyries drew weapons that hummed with divine purpose. Dark Elves primed their energy weapons. And standing together in that hangar, UNSC personnel and 9 Realms warriors prepared to defend against an army of the dead. The battle for survival had truly begun. The Hellwalker assault hit like a tsunami of corruption and death. They poured from the forest in waves that defied tactical assessment. Hundreds becoming thousands, their death-touched forms moving with unnatural coordination. These weren't mindless zombies stumbling toward prey. These were warriors who died in battle, claimed by Helheim before their souls could reach any afterlife, now twisted into weapons of entropy itself. Chief stood on the Infinity's exterior hull plating, converted into an improvised firing platform. Marine fire teams had established defensive positions along the ship's massive superstructure, turning 5 kilometers of grounded warship into a fortress. Below, Scorpion tanks formed armored wedges, their 90mm cannons thundering in rhythmic destruction. Warthog patrols raced along the perimeter, their M41 LAG turrets chewing through Hellwalkers with 50 caliber fury. All units, this is Lasky. The captain's voice cut through the tactical channel. We are weapons free on all hostiles. Mac guns are offline. Too much risk of destabilizing local geography with that much kinetic force. Rely on conventional weapons and hold the line. Spirit of Fire status? Under heavy assault, Cutter responded, his voice tight with focus. Grizzly tanks are holding the main approach, but we're seeing specialized variants breaking through. Some of these things are carrying siege equipment, actual catapults hurling corrupted material. Confirmed, Anders added, her scientific detachment cracking under stress. Captain, the hell corruption is spreading through the ground itself. Anywhere their bodies fall, the earth turns necrotic. We can't let them establish a beachhead or the contamination will reach critical mass. Chief's hoodie painted the battlefield in clinical detail. Motion trackers showed 347 contacts within engagement range. Ammunition counters ticked downward across his fire team. Friendly positions glowed green, Spartan foes, holding key choke points, ODSTs establishing kill zones, Marines creating overlapping fields of fire. And scattered among them, fighting with techniques that predated human civilization, were the warriors of the 9 realms. Kratos stood at the Infinity's bow, a position that should have been suicide. Hellwalkers swarmed toward him in a tide of corrupted flesh, their weapons ranging from rusted axes to those horrific implements that wept death mist. He met them with the blades of chaos, and what followed could only be described as artistry written in violence. The chains whirled in patterns too fast for unaugmented eyes to follow. Each strike killed, maimed, or destroyed. Chaos fire consumed death corruption, turning Hellwalkers into ash before their bodies could contaminate the ground. Kratos moved through the horde like a force of nature, his movements economical despite their brutality. No wasted effort, no unnecessary flourishes, just systematic, relentless extermination. Jesus Christ, Buck breathed over the squad channel. Is he even breathing hard? Negative, Tanaka replied, her sensors tracking the ghost of Sparta's vitals. Heart rate elevated but steady, respiration controlled. He's not fighting at his limit. This is maintenance work for him. Chief watched a Hell Reaver, twice the size of the one they'd killed earlier, charge toward Kratos. The creature swung a massive hammer wreathed in green corruption. Kratos didn't dodge. He caught the hammer mid-swing with one hand, his muscles straining but holding against force that should have pulverized him. Then he drove the Leviathan axe through the Reaver's skull with his other hand, frost detonating outward and flash-freezing the creature's multiple heads. The ghost of Sparta kicked the frozen corpse off his weapons and continued forward, wading deeper into the enemy horde. "He's going to get overwhelmed," Locke observed. "No," Chief replied quietly. "He's establishing a kill zone, drawing them toward him so our weapons have clear firing lanes." The Spartan was right. Kratos' aggressive forward position created a natural funnel, concentrating Hellwalkers into dense groups that made perfect targets for UNSC firepower. Chief raised his battle rifle, acquired 3 targets clustered behind the God-Killer, and fired. 3 round bursts punched through corrupted skulls with mechanical precision. Across the battlefield, Thrud fought atop a scorpion tank, her hammer rising and falling like divine percussion. Each strike detonated thunder that scattered Hellwalkers like broken toys. The tank's crew had adapted quickly, using her lightning as targeting assistance. Wherever she struck, they followed up with main gun rounds that obliterated anything still moving. The Valkyries operated as aerial superiority, their wings carrying them above the battle to strike at Hellwalkers attempting flanking maneuvers. Gundul led them in formations that combined centuries of combat experience with supernatural mobility. They moved like a single organism, each Valkyrie covering her sister's vulnerabilities while exploiting enemy weaknesses. And the Dark Elves. The Dark Elves fought with methodical efficiency that earned even Palmer's grudging respect. Svein and his warriors had positioned themselves on elevated hull sections, using their advanced optics and energy weapons to engage at range. Their rifles, crystalline constructs that channeled stolen light, fired with accuracy that rivaled Spartan marksmen. Each shot dropped a Hellwalker with a beam of concentrated radiance that burned corruption from flesh. "Fascinating," Anders muttered, watching from Infinity's bridge through external cameras. Their weapons operate on principles similar to hard light technology, but the energy source is... I don't even know what that is. It's not nuclear, not chemical, not even conventional plasma. It's stolen. Svein's voice crackled over the communications network that the Dark Elves had somehow integrated with UNSC systems. Alfheim's light, corrupted and weaponized. We take what the Light Elves hoard and make it useful. A new threat emerged from the forest. Hell Reavers in formation, 6 of them, each carrying siege towers made from fused corpses and corrupted bone. They lumbered forward with nightmare purpose, clearly intending to scale the Infinity's hull and deposit hundreds of Hellwalkers directly onto the ship's interior. "Spirit of Fire, we have heavy siege units approaching," Chief transmitted. "Can you provide fire support?" "Negative, Chief," Cutter replied. "We're fully engaged, but I can send you something better." The ground shook with the distinctive rumble of heavy armor. 3 Grizzly tanks, UNSC's heaviest ground vehicles, each mounting dual 120mm cannons and enough armor to shrug off Wraith plasma, emerged from the tree line behind the Hell Reaver formation. They opened fire simultaneously, 12 barrels speaking with apocalyptic thunder. The first Reaver exploded, its siege tower disintegrating under the combined impact of 6 anti-armor rounds. The second lost its legs, collapsing into a thrashing heap. The third turned to face this new threat, only to be obliterated by a follow-up salvo that scattered its component corpses across a 100-meter radius. "Spirit of Fire," Chief acknowledged. "Good shooting." "Thanks, Spartan Red Team," Cutter replied. "They're coordinating armor deployment. Jerome says to tell you Blue Team owes Red Team a drink when this is over. Blue Team's never owed Red Team anything, Chief replied, the faintest hint of humor in his voice. That's what Jerome figured you'd say. He says bring it, old man. Despite everything, the impossible situation, the army of the dead, the stranded ships and shattered physics, Chief felt something almost like camaraderie warming the tactical coldness that usually filled combat. Spartans, even different Spartans from different eras, understood each other. But the battle was far from over. Mimir's voice crackled across the Infinity's external speakers. Someone had given the severed head access to UNSC communications, probably Anders, in her eagerness to learn everything. Brothers and sisters, warriors all, I hate to interrupt the magnificent slaughter, but we have a bigger problem. The Hellwalkers aren't trying to overwhelm you through numbers. They're trying to anchor Helheim's corruption to this location. Explain, Lasky demanded. Look at the pattern of their assault. They're not attacking randomly. They're forming geometric patterns, runic configurations. Each body that falls is a point in a massive mystical diagram. If they complete it, they'll create a permanent bridge between Helheim and Midgard. The Hell corruption won't just be an invasion, it'll be a fundamental alteration of reality itself. Anders pulled up aerial surveillance imagery, overlaying the Hellwalker positions across a tactical map. Mimir was right. The bodies formed incomplete runes, arcane symbols that even her xenoarchaeology background recognized as structurally significant. We need to disrupt the pattern, she said urgently. Break the geometric integrity before they can complete it. How? Palmer asked, already calculating assault vectors. Fire. Kratos' voice cut through, somehow transmitted despite him being in the middle of melee combat. The bodies must burn before the corruption can set. Chaos flame will suffice, but you'll need something larger. We can provide larger, Lasky said grimly. He opened fleet-wide communications. All longsword pilots, prepare for napalm runs. Target coordinates uploading now. Danger close to friendly positions. I need surgical precision. Captain, one pilot responded. Those coordinates put us practically on top of our own people. I know. That's why only our best are flying this mission. Chief, clear the target zones. Chief was already moving. All ground forces, pull back to secondary positions. Valkyries, get our people clear. We're going to burn the battlefield. The coordinated retreat was chaos, barely controlled. Marines sprinted toward rally points while laying suppressing fire. Scorpions reversed at maximum speed, their cannons firing even as they withdrew. The Valkyries swooped down, grabbing wounded personnel and carrying them to safety with strength that defied their frames. Kratos didn't retreat. He stood his ground, the blades of chaos whirling in defensive patterns that created a wall of fire between the withdrawing UNSC forces and the pursuing Hellwalkers. Dozens died on his blades. Then hundreds. The ghost of Sparta had become a one-man holding action, buying seconds with bodies. Kratos? Thrud shouted. Move, you stubborn fool. The firebirds are coming. Not yet, Kratos replied, his voice eerily calm despite the carnage. He was counting, watching, waiting for the exact moment when the last UNSC personnel cleared the kill zone. Chief saw it happening, understood the God-killer's calculation with the clarity of shared tactical thinking. Kratos wasn't just buying time. He was baiting the Hellwalkers forward, concentrating them into the exact positions where the napalm would be most effective. Now, Chief transmitted. Kratos turned and ran. Not a panicked flight, but a controlled tactical retreat executed with impossible speed. He covered 50 meters in seconds that shouldn't have been possible without powered armor, the Hellwalkers surging after him like a tide of corruption given purpose. 6 longsword fighters screamed overhead, their bomb bays already open. Napalm canisters tumbled free, dozens of them, spreading across the battlefield in precise geometric patterns. They hit the ground and detonated, liquid fire blooming across the frozen landscape like flowers of apocalypse. The Hellwalkers caught in the initial blast simply ceased to exist. Vaporized by temperatures that exceeded anything their death corruption could regenerate through. Those on the periphery burned, their bodies consumed before the necrotic contamination could spread. The runic pattern they'd been forming shattered, its geometric integrity destroyed by flame and fury. Kratos emerged from the inferno's edge, his ash-white skin now smudged with actual ash. The blades of chaos still burning with chaos flame that danced alongside mundane napalm. He looked back at the burning battlefield with something that might have been satisfaction. Effective, he said simply. The Hellwalker assault broke. The survivors, and there were still hundreds, retreated into the forest, their tactical coordination shattered along with their mystical objective. They'd failed to anchor Helheim's corruption, and without that strategic goal, simple assault became pointless. Palmer ordered pursuit teams forward, but cautiously. The burning battlefield had created a temporary barrier, but it wouldn't last forever. Casualty report, Lasky demanded. 17 wounded, none critical, the medical officer replied. Honestly, Captain, it's a miracle. We should have lost dozens in an assault that size. We had help, Lasky acknowledged. He opened a channel to the Nine Realms warriors. Kratos, Thrud, Gondul, Svein, your assistance made the difference. Without your knowledge of the enemy's tactics, we'd be fighting a very different battle right now. You would have lost, Thrud said bluntly. Your weapons kill efficiently, but you don't understand magical warfare. The runic pattern would have completed before you even recognized the threat. Then it's fortunate we're not fighting alone, Lasky replied. Gondul landed on the Infinity's hull beside Chief, her wings folding with mechanical precision. You fight well, metal warriors. Disciplined, coordinated. But this was a probing assault. The real invasion hasn't begun. How bad? Chief asked. Helheim's borders are collapsing across all 9 realms. What you faced tonight? This was perhaps 1% of what's coming. When the full tide breaks loose. She shook her head. Even Odin couldn't have held against that. And Odin had the Einherjar legions, the full Aesir pantheon, and Valhalla's endless reinforcements. We have 2 ships, limited ammunition, and no way home, Chief said. We'll make it work. Spoken like a true warrior, Gondul replied. Tell me, Spartan, do your people believe in fate? We make our own fate. Good answer. She smiled, and it was the expression of someone who'd chosen countless souls for glorious death. Then perhaps you'll survive what's coming. The Norns claim your arrival has broken destiny itself, that threads are weaving patterns they've never seen before. They fear you, metal warriors. They fear what you represent, a future written without their permission. Chief processed that information, filed it under supernatural intelligence of unknown reliability, and focused on immediate concerns. We need to establish proper defensive positions, coordinate with all factions willing to work with us, and figure out how to stop an entire realm of death from overwhelming our position. A simple afternoon's work, Mimir said cheerfully. Brother, I'm starting to like these spacefarers. They face impossible odds with the same casual acceptance you do. Kratos grunted acknowledgement. He was cleaning the blades of chaos, the ritual automatic after millennia of use. They are soldiers. Soldiers understand that victory is temporary, defeat is permanent, and survival requires both skill and fortune. And you? Chief asked. You're not obligated to keep helping us. Kratos was silent for a long moment, his ancient eyes fixed on the burning battlefield. I tried to walk away from war, tried to be just a man, living quietly with my family. The gods wouldn't allow it. Now the gods are dead, but war remains. Perhaps it will always remain. He met Chief's visor with those haunted, golden eyes. You fight to protect your people. I understand this. Once, I fought only for myself. It led to consequences. Perhaps helping you is how I avoid repeating past failures. It wasn't alliance. It wasn't friendship. It was something rawer and more honest. Two weapons acknowledging their purpose, even if they wished for something different. We'll take whatever help we can get, Chief said. The frozen night descended on Midgard, the battlefield still burning, casting dancing shadows across two crashed warships and the impossible coalition defending them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new threats, new impossible situations. But tonight, they'd held the line. And sometimes, that was enough. The war room aboard the Infinity had been hastily converted to accommodate both UNSC personnel and 9 realms representatives. Holographic displays projected tactical data alongside hand-drawn maps of the realms that Mimir dictated from memory. The fusion of technologies and methodologies created something neither side would have imagined. A command center where quantum computing met millennia of divine knowledge. Captain Lasky stood at the head of the tactical table, his exhaustion carefully masked behind professional composure. 48 hours of continuous operations had tested even his experienced command. Around the table stood an assembly that would have been unthinkable a week ago. UNSC officers, Spartan 2s and IVs, a god killer, a thunder goddess, dark elf technologists, Valkyrie warriors, and a talking severed head providing strategic consultation. All right, Lasky began. Let's assess our situation honestly. We're stranded in a universe operating on physics we don't understand, facing an invasion from what amounts to hell itself, and our 2 largest military assets are grounded. Professor Anders, what's our status on slipspace drive repair? Anders pulled up complex mathematical models that made even the other scientists wince. Minimal progress. The dimensional framework here is fundamentally incompatible with our technology. It's like trying to sail a ship on land. The vessel is intact, but the medium doesn't support the travel method. She gestured to Svein. However, the Dark Elves have provided some insights into realm traversal mechanics that might be adaptable. Svein's helmet projected his own holographic data, crystalline structures that seemed to fold space in ways that hurt to look at directly. Your slipspace operates on principles similar to how we navigate between Svartalfheim and other realms. The difference is you're trying to force your way through. We've learned to ask permission. Yggdrasil's roots respond to specific resonances. If we can attune your drives to match those frequencies, we might be able to travel between realms. Anders finished, her excitement barely contained. Not home immediately, but at least mobile. That's better than sitting stationary waiting for the next assault. How long? Cutter asked from his position beside Lasky. Weeks, maybe months. This isn't field repair. This is fundamental re-engineering of our most complex systems. Lasky nodded grimly. Then we need to survive that long. Commander Palmer, ground force assessment? Palmer pulled up casualty reports and ammunition expenditure rates. We've got approximately 4,000 combat-ready personnel between both ships. Ammunition is sustainable for 3, maybe 4 more engagements of last night's intensity before we need to start rationing. The Spirit of Fire's manufacturing capabilities help, but we're producing bullets faster than we can produce the materials to make bullets. The Hellwalkers will return in greater numbers, Thrud interjected. She stood with her hammer resting against the deck, her posture radiating barely controlled frustration. The 9 realms are fragmenting. Without Asgard's central authority, each realm pursues its own interests. Some will ally with you. Others will see your weakness as opportunity. Opportunity for what? Jerome asked. The Spartan too had been silent until now, his tactical mind processing everything. Conquest, study, enslavement. Thrud's voice carried bitter experience. The Aesir maintained order through strength and fear. Now that's gone. The light elves of Alfheim hoard their power behind closed borders. The dwarves fragment into competing forges. The surviving giants hide in Jotunheim, waiting to see who emerges dominant. And entities older than the Aesir themselves stir in forgotten corners, sensing weakness. Gundul spread her wings in an unconscious gesture of agitation. The Valkyries can provide intelligence from across the realms. We fly where armies cannot march. But our numbers are few. Only 23 survived Ragnarok. We cannot garrison your position or provide sustained combat support. We don't need garrison forces, Chief said. We need information, tactical intelligence on incoming threats, early warning on hostile movements. Can you provide that? We can, Gundul confirmed. But know this, there are beings in the 9 realms that even we do not challenge lightly. The Norns, the primordials sealed beneath reality's foundations. And worst of all, the gods from other pantheons who might see Ragnarok's aftermath as invitation to expand their domains. Other pantheons? Lasky's attention sharpened. You're saying there are more? Mimir's glowing eyes brightened with academic enthusiasm. Oh, aye, the 9 realms are just one cluster of reality. Egyptian gods rule their domains. Celtic deities hold their territories. Japanese kami govern their islands. Greek and Roman gods, well, brother Kratos, has opinions on those. They're dead, Kratos stated flatly. I killed them. The room fell silent. Several UNSC personnel stared at the god killer with renewed understanding of exactly what stood among them. Right, Mimir continued carefully, except for those ones. Point being, lad, your arrival has been felt across multiple pantheons. The dimensional rift you created? That was loud. Every god and entity with even minimal cosmic awareness knows something unprecedented has entered the realms. Some will be curious, some will be terrified, some will be hungry. Wonderful, Palmer muttered. So we're not just fighting death demons. We're going to have actual gods showing up wanting to poke the new toys. That's remarkably accurate, yes, Mimir confirmed. Douglas 042 spoke up, his voice carrying the dry pragmatism of someone who'd fought impossible odds before. Then we need allies. Real allies, not just temporary cooperation. Who in these 9 realms would actually benefit from helping us long-term? The dwarves, Svein answered immediately. Lord Sindri specifically. He's mad with grief, yes, but his genius remains unmatched. If you can provide him materials he's never worked with, metals from your ships, technology he can study, he'll craft weapons and armor that merge your science with our magic. Weapons that can actually kill these death demons permanently? Buck asked. The hell corruption is vulnerable to specific enchantments, Thrud explained. Holy fire, blessed steel, weapons forged with divine purpose. Your bullets kill the bodies, but the corruption regenerates unless you destroy it at a fundamental level. That requires magic. Chief processed this tactically. So we need our firepower enhanced with magical properties. Can it be done without compromising the weapon's functionality? Brother, Mimir addressed Kratos. Remember how we enhanced the Leviathan axe? Brok and Sindri took a weapon that was already formidable and made it god-killing. These metal warriors have formidable weapons. Imagine what the dwarves could do with them. Kratos grunted acknowledgement. Sindri will want payment. The dwarves don't work for gratitude or promises. What kind of payment? Lasky asked. Knowledge, Svein replied. Technology, your manufacturing processes, your metallurgy, your understanding of forces beyond the 9 realms. Lord Sindri wants to create the impossible, and you represent impossibility made manifest. Anders leaned forward eagerly. That's acceptable. Scientific exchange benefits both parties. If they can teach us realm traversal mechanics and enchantment theory, we can share our materials science and engineering principles. There's risk, Alice 130 pointed out. Sharing military technology with unknown parties. That's usually prohibited under UNSC protocols. We're not in UNSC space anymore, Lasky said quietly. Normal protocols don't apply when you're stranded in another universe facing existential threats. I'm authorizing limited technology sharing under my emergency command authority. If it keeps us alive long enough to get home, it's worth it. A new presence made itself known, not through the door, but through the conference room's holographic display. The projection flickered, then resolved into a figure that made even Kratos tense. An elderly dwarf, his beard wild and unkempt, his eyes carrying the manic intensity of someone who'd stared into grief so deep it had fundamentally broken something inside. Lord Sindri, Master Smith, survivor of Ragnarok, and according to all accounts, completely mad. I've been listening. Sindri's voice crackled through the speakers, somehow transmitted through systems the Dark Elves had connected. Fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Space travel, slip space, quantum harmonics, materials from beyond the 9 realms, and weapons. Oh, those weapons. I've been analyzing the data Svein transmitted. Your projectile accelerators operate on principles so crude they're almost elegant. Brute force substituting for finesse. Lord Sindri, Lasky began carefully, we're honored by your interest. We're hoping to establish a working relationship. I accept, Sindri interrupted. Bring me your broken ship drives. Bring me your weapons. Bring me materials I've never seen. In exchange, I'll forge you armor that can withstand divine wrath, weapons that can kill death itself, and tools that might let you find your way home. His manic grin widened. But I want something else, something more valuable than metal and knowledge. Name it, Lasky said. I want him. Sindri's projection pointed directly at Kratos. The God Butcher, the murderer of my brother. I want to work alongside the creature who destroyed everything I loved. I want to see if I can create beauty while staring at the embodiment of my rage every single day. That's my price. The room tensed. Every weapon suddenly seemed heavier, every alliance more fragile. Kratos met the projection's eyes, one broken soul staring at another across impossible grief. I killed Heimdall in self-defense. He attacked first. But your brother Brock died because of choices I made, alliances I forged. His blood stains my hands like all the others. He paused, then continued with brutal honesty. If working with me brings you peace or vengeance or whatever broken comfort you seek, I will do it. I owe your family that much. Sindri's expression flickered through emotions too complex to name. Finally, peace? Vengeance? I don't want either, God Killer. I want to create. I want to build things so magnificent that even death itself stops to admire them. And I want you there to remember what creation costs. Deal? Deal, Kratos replied simply. Excellent. Sindri's mania reasserted itself. I'll need 3 days to prepare my forge for the materials you'll bring. Svein will coordinate transport. This is going to be glorious. The projection cut out abruptly. Lasky exhaled slowly. Well, that was intense. That was Sindri on a good day, Mimir observed. You should see him when he's truly upset. Brother, are you certain about this? Working with someone who hates you that much? I've worked with many who hated me, Kratos said. Hate is simple, honest, easier than false friendship. Thrud shook her head in reluctant admiration. You're either the bravest or most foolish being I've encountered. Possibly both. We have our weapons enhancement solution, Chief summarized, moving the discussion forward with Spartan efficiency. What about the immediate tactical situation? The Hellwalkers will attack again, probably within 24 hours. What's our defensive strategy? Jerome pulled up topographical data. The terrain limits their approach vectors. Forest to the north and east, mountains to the south, frozen lake to the west. We fortify the forest approaches with mines and automated turrets. Position our heavy armor in mobile reserve. Use the ships themselves as fortress cores. The Valkyries can patrol the airspace, Gundul offered. We'll provide early warning of any aerial threats or coordinated assaults. The Einherjar can hold key choke points, Thrud added. We don't tire like mortals. We can maintain defensive positions indefinitely. And I'll take the forward observation post, Kratos said. Something large and threatening approaches, I'll kill it. That's not a defensive strategy, Palmer protested. That's just you being you. It's worked for centuries, Kratos replied. Alice laughed despite the tension. I like this guy. No tactical theory, no mission parameters, just I'll kill it. Refreshingly straightforward. The planning continued for another 2 hours. Details hammered out through the strange fusion of UNSC military doctrine and Nine Realms combat experience. Patrol routes were established, communication protocols integrated, ammunition distribution optimized, field hospitals positioned, evacuation procedures drafted. By the time the meeting concluded, they had something resembling a coherent defensive strategy. It wouldn't have passed any UNSC War College examination, too much reliance on unpredictable supernatural elements. But it was the best they could manage with available resources. As the group dispersed, Chief found himself walking beside Kratos through the Infinity's corridors. Marines and technicians stepped aside quickly, uncertain how to react to the God-killer's presence. Some stared with naked fear, others with confused respect, all with recognition that something fundamentally dangerous moved among them. Your people fear me, Kratos observed. They fear what you represent, Chief replied. Power beyond their understanding. You kill with your hands what requires our heaviest weapons. That's difficult to accept. Do you fear me? Chief considered the question honestly. No. Fear requires uncertainty. I know exactly what you are, a soldier who's fought longer than he wanted, killed more than he can count, and keeps fighting because it's all he knows how to do anymore. I understand that. Kratos stopped walking, studying the Spartan with those ancient eyes. You speak from experience. I was 6 when they took me, augmented, trained, made into a weapon. I've been fighting for over 40 years, and I can count on one hand the number of months I've had peace. Chief's voice remained level, clinical. People call me humanity's greatest hero, but heroes are supposed to have choices. I've just been following orders since childhood, pointing at whatever threatens humanity and pulling the trigger. Do you resent it? Some days. But resentment doesn't change anything. The threats are real. Someone has to face them. Might as well be me. They reached an observation deck overlooking the frozen landscape. The sun, wrong sun, alien sun, was setting, painting the snow in colors that Earth had never known. When I was young, Kratos said quietly, I believed service to the gods was honorable, that following their commands would bring glory. I learned the truth slowly, painfully. The gods don't care about glory. They care about control, about keeping mortals afraid and obedient. Everything I did in their service only fed their power. What changed? They killed my family, my wife, my daughter, sent them to me as weapons while I was blinded by divine rage, and His voice cracked just slightly. I destroyed everything I loved with my own hands. That's when I learned the most important lesson. Gods are not worthy of worship, service, or even existence. They are tyrants who must be ended. Chief processed that, understanding crystallizing. So you killed them. All of them. All of them. Olympus fell, the Greek pantheon burned, and then I thought I could finally rest. Found a new wife, had a son, built a life. Kratos' grip tightened on the Leviathan axe handle. But war followed me to Midgard. The Norse gods found me, and I had to do it all again. The cycle continues. Always. Kratos turned to face Chief directly. Your Captain Lasky, your Professor Anders, they believe you can repair your ships and return home. Do you believe this? Chief was silent for a long moment. I want to believe it. But I've learned that wanting something doesn't make it true. Right now, we survive. Tomorrow, we survive again. Eventually, maybe we find a way home, or maybe this becomes home. Either way, we keep fighting. That is the warrior's truth, Kratos agreed. We fight not because victory is certain, but because surrender is unacceptable. An alarm cut through their conversation. Not urgent, but attention demanding. Chief's HUD lit up with incoming transmission from the Spirit of Fire. Chief, this is Captain Cutter. The voice carried unusual tension. We have a situation. Someone just walked out of the forest. Single contact, unarmed, requesting to speak with whoever commands the metal. Mountains. Jerome says the contact is concerning. Humanoid, female, but radiating energy readings that are off the scale. She's asking specifically for you and Kratos by name. By name? Chief repeated. How would anyone here know our names? That's the concerning part. She says she's been expecting you. Says your arrival was prophesied. And Chief? Cutter paused. She claims to be one of the Norns, the beings who weave fate itself. Kratos' expression darkened. The Norns never leave their well, never involve themselves directly. If one is here, speaking to us, it means something's changed, Chief finished. Something significant enough to draw out beings who supposedly know all futures. They headed for the hangar bay at combat pace, weapons ready, minds calculating possibilities. If the beings who claimed to control destiny itself were taking notice, the UNSC's arrival had consequences far beyond 2 crashed ships and some dead hellwalkers. The war for survival had just become significantly more complicated. The figure waiting in the cleared ground between the Spirit of Fire and the tree line defied conventional threat assessment. Chief's sensors painted contradictory data, humanoid profile, but energy readings that fluctuated between negligible and star core intensity. His motion tracker couldn't decide if she was stationary or occupying multiple positions simultaneously. Even his armor's targeting systems refused to lock on, the reticle sliding away like trying to aim at something that existed in probability rather than certainty. She appeared as an elderly woman, hunched with age, wrapped in tattered robes that seemed woven from twilight itself. Her eyes, when they focused, contained depths that suggested she was looking not at the present moment, but at every moment simultaneously. In her withered hands, she held threads that glimmered with ethereal light. Threads that extended into nothingness and somehow connected to everything. Spartan Red Team had established a perimeter, their weapons trained but held in check. Jerome's posture radiated controlled tension. He recognized something fundamentally dangerous when encountered it, even if he couldn't classify the threat. "Master Chief?" Jerome reported as Chief and Kratos approached. Contact identifies as Skuld, youngest of the Norns. She's been standing there for 20 minutes, hasn't moved, hasn't threatened, just waiting. It's unnerving as hell. "Skuld," Kratos said, his voice carrying the weight of old recognition. "The Norn of future fate. What brings you from your well, Weaver?" The ancient woman's eyes focused, and suddenly Chief understood why even gods feared the Norns. Those eyes saw through him, not through his armor, but through time itself. She was observing not just his present, but his past and all possible futures simultaneously. It was violation without touch, judgment without trial. "Ghost of Sparta," Skuld's voice sounded like wind through ancient stones. "You who broke destiny's chains and shattered prophecy itself. And the metal warrior, the Spartan who never dies, humanity's greatest weapon and its deepest tragedy." She smiled, revealing teeth that might have been stone or bone or something else entirely. "I come because threads are tangling. The tapestry my sisters and I have woven since reality's birth is unraveling." "Unraveling how?" Kratos demanded. He'd dealt with the Norns before, learned to distrust their pronouncements. Prophecy was just another form of manipulation. Skuld raised one withered hand, and the threads she held began to glow. Suddenly, Chief's HUD was flooded with images. Not holographic projections, but visions inserted directly into his perception. He saw the Infinity and Spirit of Fire, repaired and functional, tearing through dimensional barriers with hybrid UNSC dwarf technology, leaving the 9 realms forever. The same ships, burned and broken, their crews scattered as slaves across a dozen realms, humanity's last survivors serving, gods who collected them like curiosities. Kratos standing alone on a mountain of corpses, both UNSC and 9 realms, having killed everything in sight during some cataclysmic battle. The last living thing in a dead world. Chief and Kratos fighting side by side against something massive and terrible, something that wore reality itself like ill-fitting skin, both dying but taking the entity with them, sacrificing themselves to save billions they'd never meet. Alliances forming, UNSC technology spread across the 9 realms, uplifting civilizations, creating a new age of cooperation between science and magic. War eternal, pantheons from every mythology converging on the 9 realms to either claim or destroy the UNSC presence, turning Midgard into a battlefield of gods. The visions cut off abruptly, leaving Chief's head spinning with conflicting futures. "What you've seen," Skuld explained, "are the primary branches. 6 major timelines, each leading to radically different outcomes. My sisters and I, we can no longer determine which is most likely. Your arrival has created what we call a word knot, a tangle in fate so complex that even we cannot untangle it." "Why does that matter?" Douglas asked, his practical nature cutting through the mysticism. "You see multiple futures all the time, right? That's what probability is." "No," Skuld's voice sharpened. "You misunderstand. We don't predict probability. We weave destiny. We see the future because we're creating it with every thread we spin. But your metal mountains, your warriors from beyond the realms, you're not part of our tapestry. You're foreign threads, incompatible with the pattern. We cannot weave you into fate because you come from a universe where fate doesn't exist the way it does here." Captain Cutter had joined them, his command tablet recording everything. "Let me get this straight. You're saying we're immune to destiny?" "Not immune. Incompatible. Like trying to mix oil and water, you exist, but you don't integrate. Every choice you make creates cascading changes we cannot predict, account for, or control." Skuld's frustration was palpable. Do you understand what that means? For countless millennia, we have guided the 9 realms toward specific outcomes. We prevented certain cataclysms, encouraged certain heroisms, maintained balance. Now, chaos. Pure, unpredictable chaos. Kratos' expression suggested he found this deeply satisfying. So we've broken your control over fate. Good. Fate is a cage. You've kept entire civilizations prisoner to your design, justified countless horrors as necessary for the greater pattern. Perhaps it's time your tapestry burned. Careful, God-killer. Skuld warned. We are not your enemies. We maintain order. Without our guidance, the 9 realms would have torn themselves apart in divine warfare centuries ago. Or perhaps, Chief interjected, they would have found their own paths. Free will versus predestination isn't just a philosophical debate. It's the difference between people choosing their futures and having futures chosen for them. Skuld studied the Spartan with something approaching respect. You speak wisdom, metal warrior. But tell me, if you had known 6-year-old John would become a weapon, a killer of thousands, would you have chosen that fate? Or would you have wanted someone to intervene, change the pattern, save the child from his destiny? The question struck with surgical precision. Chief's hands tightened on his rifle. That's not the same thing. Isn't it? We intervened to prevent suffering on cosmic scales. You were made a weapon to prevent humanity's extinction. Both are sacrifices made for greater good. The only difference is scale and methodology. The difference, Kratos said coldly, is consent. The metal warrior may not have chosen his path as a child, but he can choose now. Your victims never get that option. You weave their entire lives from birth to death, never allowing deviation. We maintain balance. You maintain control. Kratos stepped forward, and even a Norn who wove destiny itself seemed to shrink slightly. I know control. I served the gods' control for years. It is tyranny dressed in necessity's clothes. If our arrival has broken your power, perhaps that's exactly what these realms needed. Skuld was silent for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, she laughed, a sound like cracking ice. Perhaps you're right, ghost of Sparta. Perhaps the age of woven fates should end. But know this, without our guidance, the paths ahead are darker and more terrible than anything we would have allowed. We'll face them anyway, Chief said simply. That's what soldiers do. And we'll face them with choice, Kratos added, which is worth any price. The Norn began to fade, her form becoming translucent. Then I give you warning, as freely as I'm able. Your presence has been felt by beings far more terrible than Hellwalkers. The Egyptian pantheon debates whether to investigate or destroy you. The Celtic gods watch with predatory interest. And something else, something old and vast, stirs in the spaces between pantheons, drawn by the dimensional wound your arrival created. Something else? Cutter pressed. Be specific. I cannot. It exists outside our tapestry entirely. Perhaps it's from your universe. Perhaps it's something that has waited between realities for ages. But it's coming, drawn by the scent of dimensional breach. And when it arrives? Skuld's form was almost completely transparent now. Even I cannot see what happens next. The futures splinter into infinite possibilities, and in most of them, everyone dies. How do we stop it? Chief asked. You don't. You survive it. There's a difference. The Norn's final words echoed as she vanished completely. The Norns will not interfere again. This is your weird knot to untangle. We'll watch from our well and see if free will triumphs or destroys everything. Farewell, warriors from beyond. You've made existence interesting. She was gone, leaving only disturbed snow and a growing sense of dread. Well, Jerome said into the silence. That was ominous as hell. She mentioned Egyptian gods, Alice noted. Aren't those different from Norse gods? Different pantheon entirely? Different mythology, different power structure, different realms, Mimir confirmed. The severed head sounded genuinely worried. Brother, if other pantheons are taking notice, we're facing problems that make Ragnarok look like a family squabble. The Egyptian gods alone. Ra, Osiris, Set, Anubis. They command power that dwarfs what you faced in Olympus. We faced down the didact, Palmer interjected. Ancient forerunner who could compose entire populations with a thought. The grave mind, which corrupted realities and spoke with billions of voices. We've handled cosmic-level threats before. This isn't about power levels, Kratos said quietly. This is about understanding. The didact was forerunner, ancient and powerful, but still operating on principles you comprehend. Gods are different. They are conceptual. They don't just have power. They are power given form and consciousness. Fighting them isn't about superior firepower. It's about understanding that reality operates differently in their presence. Professor Anders had been frantically taking notes through the entire conversation. This is incredible. We're learning about universal mechanics that humanity never imagined. Multiple pantheons, dimensional frameworks, beings that exist outside conventional space-time. If we could just... Professor, Lasky interrupted gently. We need to focus on survival before we worry about academic papers. Right, yes, of course. Anders looked almost disappointed at having to prioritize living over learning. A new alarm sounded, different frequency, different urgency. The Valkyrie patrol was reporting incoming. Gundul's voice crackled across UNSC. Communications. Multiple contacts approaching from the south. Not Hellwalkers. These are organized. Military formation, armor and weapons that suggest significant threat level. Estimate 300 warriors, heavily equipped, moving with purpose directly toward your position. Can you identify them? Chief asked. Aesir remnants, Gundul replied grimly, led by someone carrying divine power signature. Based on the lightning emanations, I think it's Modi. Modi? Thrud's voice cut in, sharp with alarm. She'd been monitoring communications from her position on the Infinity's hull. My brother survived? I thought he died with father. So did everyone, Gundul confirmed. But those lightning signatures don't lie. Your brother lives, and he's brought an army. Kratos' expression darkened. Modi, son of Thor, arrogant, cruel, obsessed with proving himself superior to his father's legacy. If he survived Ragnarok and gathered followers, he'll want to establish himself as the new head of the Aesir. Mimir finished. And what better way to prove divine supremacy than by conquering the mighty metal mountains that fell from beyond the realms? Brother, this isn't an attack. This is a statement. Modi wants to subjugate you publicly to establish his authority. Chief pulled up tactical displays. 300 warriors in organized formation, led by a divine being with Thor's blood. Not insurmountable, but complicated by the fact that outright hostility could alienate potential allies. They needed cooperation from 9 realms factions, and slaughtering an Aesir prince, even an aggressive one, would burn diplomatic bridges. Options? Lasky asked. We could fortify and let them break against our defenses, Palmer suggested. Show strength through defense. That's a siege. Cutter countered. We don't have resources for prolonged standoff. We could negotiate, Anders offered. Establish diplomatic protocol, find common ground. Modi doesn't negotiate, Thrud said bitterly. He demands. He takes. He's everything worst about the Aesir distilled into one violent, egotistical package. Diplomacy will fail. Then we demonstrate power without slaughter, Chief said. Let them approach. Establish defensive posture. If Modi wants to prove superiority, we show him what UNSC military superiority looks like without firing a shot. Intimidation through capability. Jerome nodded approval. Shock and awe. Every scorpion, every warthog, every Spartan in full display. Let them see what they'd be fighting if things turn hostile. I like it, Douglas agreed. Nothing says don't mess with us like a company of fully armed Spartans in heavy armor. But we need a face for this, Alice pointed out. Someone to meet Modi directly, establish terms. All eyes turned to Chief and Kratos, the two warriors who'd already proven themselves in combat against Nine Realms threats. We'll do it, Chief said. Kratos, you know Modi. I know. Military protocol. Between us, we can handle this. Modi is a fool, Kratos warned. But a dangerous fool. His pride will drive him to challenge. Be prepared for violence despite our best efforts. I'm always prepared for violence, Chief replied. It's peace I have trouble with. Kratos' mouth twitched, the closest thing to a smile the god-killer ever showed. You truly are a Spartan, not in name alone. As they prepared to meet Modi's advancing force, Lasky gathered the command staff for final instructions. All personnel, defensive posture only. We're not looking for a fight, but we will end one if forced. Remember, we're trying to survive here, not conquer. But if survival requires showing these gods what humanity's capable of, we'll make sure the demonstration is memorable. The UNSC and its unlikely allies prepared for what might be their most delicate battle yet. Not against monsters or death itself, but against pride, politics, and the delicate balance between showing strength and avoiding war. In the distance, lightning crackled across the southern sky. Modi was announcing his approach with divine fury, declaring his power for all the realms to witness. Soon, he would learn that there were powers in the universe far more terrifying than thunder. Powers forged in humanity's desperate fight for survival against impossible odds. Powers wearing Mjolnir armor and carrying the weight of countless battles. The god of fury was about to meet soldiers who had killed gods before. And this time, the gods would be the ones who learned fear. Modi emerged from the southern tree line like a thunderstorm given human form. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his physique sculpted with divine perfection that made even Spartan augmentation look modest. Lightning crackled around his armor, ancient Aesir craftsmanship bearing battle scars from Ragnarok itself. In his hands, he carried Mjolnir, not the original hammer, but a reforged version, smaller and angrier, channeling his rage more than his father's measured strength. Behind him marched his army, 300 warriors drawn from surviving Einherjar, mercenary Aesir loyalists, and opportunists seeking divine favor. They wore mismatched armor salvaged from Ragnarok's aftermath, but their weapons hummed with enchantments, and their formations showed professional military discipline. The UNSC response was calculated intimidation. Every Scorpion tank the combined fleet could deploy formed a semicircular wall of armor. 23 heavy tanks, their 90mm cannons elevated to maximum depression, barrels tracking Modi's approach with mechanical precision. Behind them, Warthog patrols raced in coordinated patterns, their M41 LAAG turrets demonstrating mobility and firepower simultaneously. Longsword fighters screamed overhead in tight formation, their engines roar, a reminder that the UNSC controlled not just ground, but sky. And standing in formation before the armored wall stood 60 Spartans, both Spartan IIs and Spartan Foos, their Mjolnir armor gleaming in Midgard's alien sunlight, their weapons held in perfect parade rest, The sight alone should have given any rational commander pause. Each Spartan represented more combat power than a platoon of conventional soldiers. 60 of them was an army. Master Chief stood at the center with Kratos beside him, the two warriors who'd already proven themselves against 9 realms' threats. Behind them, Thrud stood with her hammer, her expression unreadable as she prepared to face the brother she'd thought dead. Modi halted 50 meters away, his army spreading into battle formation. His eyes swept across the UNSC forces with undisguised contempt. The sneer of someone who'd been raised believing divine heritage made him inherently superior to all mortal craft. "Metal demons!" Modi's voice boomed with divine amplification, carrying across the frozen battlefield. "I am Modi, son of Thor, heir to Asgard's legacy, rightful ruler of the surviving Aesir. You have invaded the 9 realms uninvited. You bring weapons of cowardice, distance killing without honor, metal beasts without souls. You defile this sacred ground with your presence." "Diplomatic as always, brother," Thrud muttered. Modi's eyes fixed on his sister, and something ugly twisted his features. "Thrud, so you survived father's madness and mother's death. Yet here you stand, beside these metal abominations, betraying your divine heritage." "I stand beside those who fight the hell corruption," Thrud replied evenly. "Unlike you who apparently spent Ragnarok hiding while the realms burned." Modi's face flushed with rage. "I was fighting, defending the remnants, while you played nice with the god butcher who murdered our family." His attention shifted to Kratos, and lightning intensified around Mjolnir. "You, killer of my grandfather, murderer of my father, you stand there with metal warriors as if you found new allies to corrupt, new pantheons to destroy." Kratos said nothing, his expression carved from stone. He simply stared, letting Modi's rage expend itself against silence. "This Modi talks a lot," Buck observed over squad comms. "Does he actually do anything, or is the shouting his whole combat strategy?" "Stand by," Chief replied. "Let him finish posturing." Modi raised Mjolnir skyward, and lightning answered. Massive bolts that scarred the clouds and made the air taste like ozone. "I offer you one chance, metal demons. Kneel, swear service to the rightful Aesir authority. Provide your weapons and your ships as tribute. In exchange, I grant you protection within my domain and the privilege of serving the gods." "That's generous," Palmer said dryly. "We get to be slaves with extra steps." Captain Lasky's voice came through command channel. "Chief, your call. Negotiate or demonstrate." Chief stepped forward, his voice amplified through external speakers. "I am Master Chief Petty Officer John 117, United Nations Space Command. We are not demons. We are explorers and defenders from a distant universe, stranded here by accident. We seek cooperation, not conflict. But we kneel to no one." The last 4 words carried absolute finality. Every Spartan in formation understood. Their entire service, their augmentation, their sacrifice had been to ensure humanity never had to bow before anyone. Not covenant prophets, not forerunner didacts, not created AIs, and certainly not a thunder god's arrogant son. Modi's expression cycled through disbelief, rage, and something like glee. "You refuse? You, mortal wretches encased in metal shells, refuse divine command?" He laughed, the sound carrying genuine amusement. "Perfect. I was hoping you'd choose violence. I've been bored since Ragnarok ended. Fighting death demons is tedious. They don't scream properly when you kill them. But you..." His eyes gleamed with anticipation. "You'll make this interesting." "Final warning," Chief said calmly. "Withdraw peacefully. We have no desire for conflict." "Oh, but I do." Modi launched forward with supernatural speed, Mjolnir crackling with divine fury. He covered 50 meters in seconds that shouldn't have been physically possible, his hammer swinging toward Chief with enough force to crater mountains. Chief's augmented reflexes kicked in. He dodged left, the hammer missing by centimeters, its passage creating a shockwave that cracked the frozen ground. Chief's counter was immediate. A textbook close-quarter strike with his rifle stocked toward Modi's exposed ribs. The blow connected. The stock shattered against divine flesh that might as well have been forged steel. Modi's backhand caught Chief across the chest, sending the Spartan flying 30 meters. Chief's shields flared, absorbed most of the impact, but the force was incredible. He landed in a controlled roll, came up in firing stance, but held fire. This wasn't a kill situation yet. "Impressive," Modi called out. "You survived a direct hit. Most mortals would be paced. But you're still just mortal, enhanced or not. Let me show you what divine power truly means." He raised Mjolnir, and the sky answered. Lightning, not metaphorical, not symbolic, but actual atmospheric discharge channeling millions of volts, slammed into the ground around the UNSC position. Marines scattered, their equipment sparking. Vehicle electronics flickered. The raw electromagnetic pulse threatened to overwhelm shielding systems. Kratos moved. The ghost of Sparta crossed the battlefield with the economical speed of someone who'd fought gods for lifetimes. He intercepted Modi mid-charge, the Leviathan axe meeting Mjolnir in a clash that generated a shockwave visible as distorted air. Frost and lightning detonated outward, flash freezing and electrifying everything within 10 meters simultaneously. "Modi," Kratos' voice carried deadly calm, "you're making a mistake." "The God Butcher speaks." Modi's grin was manic. "Finally, I've dreamed of this. Avenging father, proving myself superior to the legend who killed him." He swung again, pure rage and divine power behind every strike. Kratos blocked, parried, countered with brutal efficiency. But Modi wasn't Baldur. Slower, less technique, but raw power that kept coming. Lightning wrapped around Mjolnir with each swing, forcing Kratos to use both the Leviathan axe and the Blades of Chaos in tandem, frost and flame against thunder and fury. "All units, hold fire," Lasky commanded. "Let them settle this." "Sir, we could end this with one tank round," Jerome pointed out. "And start a war with every Aesir loyalist in the 9 realms," Lasky countered. "This is personal combat. Different rules apply here. Chief?" Chief had recovered, his shields already regenerating. He watched the battle with tactical precision, noting Modi's patterns. The god is strong, but undisciplined, relies on power over technique. Kratos is managing him. Indeed, Kratos was slowly dismantling Modi's assault. Each exchange, the god killer's counters landed with increasing accuracy. A slash across Modi's thigh drew golden ichor. An axe strike to the shoulder made the god stumble. Chaos flame burned through divine armor, leaving scorched marks that wouldn't heal quickly. Modi's confidence began cracking. You're supposed to be past your prime, old, weakened." "I've killed 3 pantheons," Kratos replied, his voice carrying the weight of those deaths. "You're just another arrogant godchild who mistakes heritage for earned power." With brutal precision, Kratos executed a combination that had killed countless enemies. Leviathan axe hooked Mjolnir's shaft, yanking it aside while the Blades of Chaos wrapped around Modi's legs. Kratos pulled, and the thunder god crashed face first into frozen earth. Before Modi could recover, Kratos planted a boot on his back and pressed the Leviathan axe blade against his neck. "Yield," Kratos commanded. Modi thrashed, lightning exploding outward in desperate fury. Kratos held position, frost countering flame, experience countering rage. The god-killer had been in this exact position countless times. Boot on a defeated god's back, weapon at throat, deciding between mercy and murder. "Yield!" Kratos roared, and something in his voice transcended language. It was command, threat, and promise all at once. The voice of someone who'd ended Olympus and would end one more god without hesitation, if forced. Modi went still. The lightning faded. His army, which had been preparing to charge, halted uncertainly. "I yield," Modi gasped, divine pride shattering under pragmatic survival instinct. Kratos held position for 3 more seconds, long enough to ensure the submission was genuine, then stepped back. He didn't offer Modi a hand up, didn't humiliate him further, just stepped back and waited. Modi stood slowly, golden ichor dripping from multiple wounds, his armor scorched and broken. He looked at Kratos with something beyond hatred, something like horrified recognition. "You're not even breathing hard. You weren't even trying." "I stopped trying years ago," Kratos replied. "Now I simply do what's necessary." The defeated god's attention shifted to the UNSC forces, seeing them with new perspective. If their ally could defeat him so casually, what could their actual military power achieve? The tanks that could fire at ranges where his hammer couldn't reach. The flying machines that controlled the sky. The metal warriors who'd faced him without fear. What are you?" Modi asked, the question directed at Chief. "We're what happens when mortals refuse to accept divine authority," Chief replied. "When humanity decided our fate was ours to determine, not God's to dictate. We built ourselves into something that doesn't need divine protection or divine rule. We're what comes after gods." The statement hung in the frozen air like prophecy. Thrud approached her brother, her expression complex. "Modi, you don't have to be like father. You don't have to rule through dominance and fear. The age of Aesir supremacy is over. We can build something new, something better. With them." Modi gestured weakly at the UNSC. "Mortals with metal toys?" "With anyone willing to face what's coming," Thrud corrected. "The hell corruption spreads, ancient entities stir, other pantheons take notice. The 9 realms need unity, not more divine arrogance. You can be part of that unity, or you can stand alone and die when the real threats arrive." Modi looked at his army. 300 warriors who'd followed him expecting easy conquest, now faced with reality of fighting metal mountains and god-killers. He looked at his sister, standing beside their former enemy. He looked at the UNSC forces, still in perfect formation, still ready for battle but offering peace. Pride warred with pragmatism in his eyes. Finally, "What terms do you offer?" Lasky stepped forward, recognizing the diplomatic opening. "Non-aggression, information sharing, mutual defense against common threats. You keep your authority over your followers. We maintain our autonomy. Neither side kneels to the other. Equal partnership between free entities." "The Aesir don't do equal partnerships," Modi protested weakly. "The Aesir are dead," Kratos said bluntly. "Your survivors trying to rebuild? So are they. Either you adapt to new reality, or you die clinging to old superiority. I've watched pantheons choose the second option. It doesn't end well." Modi was silent for a long moment. Then painfully, he nodded. "I accept. Alliance, not service. We fight the hell corruption together, share intelligence, defend each other against external threats." He looked at Thrud. "But I maintain command of my forces." "Agreed," Lasky confirmed. "Captain Cutter, make it official in the records." "Already done," Cutter replied. Welcome to the strangest coalition in military history. As Modi's forces withdrew, not in defeat but in new alliance, the UNSC personnel allowed themselves to relax slightly. They'd navigated divine politics without starting a war. Barely. "Chief," Buck said over squad channel, "did we just ally with the guy who literally tried to kill you 10 minutes ago?" "It's not the strangest alliance we've made," Chief replied, thinking of former Covenant species who now fought alongside humanity. At least he was honest about wanting to kill us first. Gundul landed beside them, her wings folding. "Well handled. Modi's pride was wounded, but his army is intact and now committed to mutual defense. You've just gained 300 experienced warriors who know the 9 realms' combat methods." She paused. "But know this. Modi is unpredictable. Keep him close, watch him carefully, and never fully trust him." "Standard protocol for uncertain allies," Chief confirmed. As the sun set over their impossible battlefield, the UNSC's position had shifted. They had alliances now, fragile, complicated, but real. Dwarven craftsmen, Valkyrie scouts, Aesir warriors, Dark Elf technologists, and one very dangerous god-killer who'd chosen to stand with them. It still might not be enough against what was coming, but it was a start. 3 weeks had transformed the crash sites from disaster zones into fortified strongholds. The Infinity and Spirit of Fire still couldn't fly, but they'd become something else entirely. Hybrid fortresses where UNSC engineering met 9 realms craftsmanship in ways neither civilization had imagined possible. Dwarven runes now etched the hulls, glowing with protective enchantments that complemented energy shields. Sindri's mad genius had merged with UNSC materials science, creating armor plating that could withstand both kinetic impacts and magical assault. The ship's weapon systems had been enhanced with crystalline focusing arrays from Dark Elf technology, their Mach rounds now capable of disrupting ethereal entities that conventional weapons passed through harmlessly. And the personnel had adapted in ways that would have seemed impossible during that first chaotic arrival. Chief walked through the Infinity's armory, observing the changes. Marines practiced with runically-enhanced battle rifles, their bullets now carrying minor frost enchantments courtesy of dwarven modification. Spartans trained alongside Einherjar in close-quarters combat, learning techniques that predated human civilization. UNSC combat doctrine was evolving, incorporating supernatural threats into threat assessment matrices. Professor Anders had practically moved into Sindri's forge. The two of them engaged in collaborative madness that produced results neither could have achieved alone. Slipspace drive components sat beside Bifrost crystal arrays, quantum computers processing runic algorithms, science and magic interrogating each other until the distinction became meaningless. "Chief?" Anders's voice came through his helmet, breathless with excitement. "We've had a breakthrough, major breakthrough. You need to see this." Chief diverted to the engineering bay that had been converted into collaborative workspace. What he found defied easy description. A hybrid drive system that looked like Forerunner technology had mated with Norse mythology and produced something entirely new. Crystal matrices channeled energy through geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. Quantum field generators hummed in harmony with magical resonances. It was beautiful and terrifying simultaneously. Sindri stood beside the construct, his manic grin somehow even wider than usual. "Magnificent, isn't it? Your Professor Anders understands principles I've been fumbling with for centuries. Dimensional harmonics, quantum entanglement. She gave me language for concepts I could only approximate through trial and error." He gestured wildly at various components. "And in exchange, I taught her how magic isn't separate from physics. It's just physics operating on rules your universe never developed. Can you translate that into tactical information?" Chief asked. "We can travel," Anders said simply. "Not back to your universe yet. We still don't understand the fundamental barrier between dimensional frameworks. But within the 9 realms, we can adapt our drives to Yggdrasil's structure. The Infinity and Spirit of Fire can become mobile again." The implications crashed through Chief's tactical assessment like a Mac round. Mobility meant they weren't sitting targets, meant they could redeploy if positions became untenable, meant they could actually escape if something truly catastrophic emerged. "How long until operational?" Chief asked. 2 weeks for full integration," Anders replied. "But Chief, there's something else. While studying Yggdrasil's structure, we detected anomalies, dimensional wounds that aren't natural. Something's been actively tearing holes between realms, and it's not the hell corruption. These breaches are surgical, deliberate. Someone or something is trying to open permanent pathways between dimensions." "The entity the Norn warned about," Chief concluded. "Probably. And based on the energy signatures, these breaches are accelerating. Whatever's trying to enter the 9 realms, it's getting closer." Before Chief could respond, emergency klaxons wailed across all frequencies. His HUD immediately painted multiple priority alerts. Massive energy spike to the north, dimensional distortion off the scale, every sensor simultaneously screaming contradictory information. "All hands, battle stations." Lasky's voice cut through. "We have incoming contact. Size unknown, origin unknown, but energy readings suggest something far larger than anything we've encountered. Spartan teams deploy immediately." Chief sprinted toward the hangar bay, his armor's systems coming fully online. Around him, the organized chaos of military mobilization erupted. Marines racing to positions, Spartans arming up, vehicles firing up engines. But something felt different this time. The usual pre-combat tension carried an additional weight. Fear, maybe, or recognition that this was the fight everything had been building toward. In the hangar, Kratos was already present, his weapons drawn, his expression carved from grim stone. Beside him stood Thrud, Modi, still healing but combat-ready, Gondul with her Valkyrie sisters, Svein and his Dark Elf commandos. The entire coalition had assembled without orders. They'd all felt it. Something terrible was arriving. "Brother," Mimir said quietly, his glowing eyes dimmed with unusual seriousness. "I've felt this presence before. Not in this age, but echoes. Memories from when I was young and the realms were newer. This is something that predates the Aesir, predates the Vanir. This is primordial." "Define primordial," Jerome demanded. Red Team assembled beside Chief. "Before there were gods, there were forces," Mimir explained. "Chaos and order, creation and entropy. The fundamental powers that shaped reality itself before consciousness emerged to control them. Most were bound, sealed, imprisoned in the spaces between spaces. But some..." He trailed off, staring at the northern sky, where reality itself seemed to be tearing open. The breach manifested as a wound in existence, not an opening, but a violation. Reality peeled back like flesh from bone, revealing something beneath that mortal minds refused to process correctly. Chief's HUD glitched, displaying error messages as his sensors tried and failed to quantify what approached. It emerged slowly, deliberately, savoring its arrival. The entity was massive, kilometers in scale, its form shifting between states of matter that shouldn't coexist. Sometimes it appeared as living stone, carved with runes older than language. Sometimes as swirling void stuff that consumed light. Sometimes as twisted biology that suggested life but wrong, fundamentally wrong. When it spoke, the voice bypassed audio entirely, resonating directly in consciousness itself. Dimensional breach detected, foreign elements identified, Quarantine protocols engaged. It thinks we're a disease, Anders breathed, monitoring from the bridge. An infection in its reality. Captain, this entity isn't attacking. It's trying to sterilize us. The entity raised what might have been an appendage, and reality responded. The ground itself turned against them. Earth flowing like water, stone becoming liquid, physics negotiating new terms. Hellwalkers that had been lurking in the forests suddenly found themselves pulled upward, absorbed into the entity's mass, becoming part of its incomprehensible biology. All units, engage, Lasky commanded. The UNSC and Nine Realms Alliance opened fire with everything they had. Mac rounds screamed through the air at relativistic velocities, impacting the entity with gigatons of kinetic force. The entity barely noticed. Missiles detonated in cascading explosions that would have leveled cities. The entity's surface rippled, reformed, continued advancing. Modi launched himself forward, Mjolnir crackling with divine fury. His lightning struck the entity with enough voltage to power civilizations. The entity absorbed the energy, incorporated it, used it to accelerate its own processes. Conventional weapons aren't working, Palmer reported, her Spartan teams laying down suppressing fire that accomplished nothing. This thing is treating our ordnance like background radiation. Kratos stared at the entity with eyes that had seen every kind of monster, every category of nightmare. It's not alive, not dead. Its function, reality's immune system, attacking what it perceives as foreign contamination. We are the virus it's designed to eliminate. Then how do we fight it? Chief demanded. You don't fight immune responses, Mimir said desperately. You prove you belong. You integrate. You become part of the system. We don't have time for integration. Cutter's voice crackled from the spirit of fire. This thing is advancing on our position. 30 seconds until it's in direct contact with the hulls. Chief's tactical mind raced through scenarios. Physical force failed. Energy, weapons failed. Divine power failed. The entity operated on rules that superseded everything they understood. They needed something that could reach it on its own level. Something that could communicate in the language of fundamental reality itself. His eyes settled on the hybrid drive system Anders and Sindri had constructed. Professor, Chief transmitted. The drive you built, it interfaces with Yggdrasil's dimensional structure, right? It speaks the Nine Realms' fundamental language? Yes, but it's not complete. We can't travel yet. I'm not asking about travel, Chief interrupted. Can it transmit? Can it send information through Yggdrasil's framework? Anders paused, understanding crystallizing. You want to communicate with it? Chief, we don't know what that would do. The drive could overload, the backlash could... Do it, Lasky commanded. Whatever happens, it's better than being sterilized out of existence. Sindri, I need your help, Anders called out. We need to reconfigure the drive for transmission instead of propulsion. The dwarf and human worked with desperate speed, their hands moving in synchronized choreography of scientific understanding. Around them, the battle continued, utterly futile but necessary, buying seconds with bullets and bravery. Kratos watched the entity advance, recognition finally dawning in his ancient eyes. I know what this is. It's a primordial sentinel. Before the gods learned to shape reality, before pantheons claimed dominion, these things maintained reality's integrity. They're why dimensional breaches don't tear existence apart. They're reality's antibodies. He turned to Chief with unusual urgency. You need to prove you're not a threat. Prove the UNSC can coexist without destroying the dimensional framework. How? Chief asked. Show it memory. Show it your universe. Show it that you come from order, not chaos. That you're not corruption, just displaced. The entity was 20 meters from the Infinity's hull when Anders and Sindri completed their reconfiguration. "Drive ready for transmission," Anders announced. "Chief, we need a message. Something that encapsulates what humanity is, what the UNSC represents." Chief stood before the makeshift transmission array, Kratos beside him. Two warriors from different realities, both shaped by endless war, both trying to prove their worth to a universe that saw them as disease. Chief placed his hand on the transmission interface. His armor's systems linked with the hybrid drive, and through that connection, his memories began flowing, not words, but experience. The fall of Reach, the defense of Earth, children taken and transformed into weapons because extinction was the alternative. Humanity's desperate fight for survival against impossible odds. Not conquest, not corruption, just survival. Just the will to exist despite universe's indifference. Kratos placed his hand beside Chief's. His memories joined the transmission. Sparta's fall, Olympus's tyranny. A warrior forced to kill everything he loved, then forced to kill the gods responsible. Redemption sought through protection of his son. Ragnarok survived not through desire for power, but through determination to break cycles of divine abuse. Not chaos, not entropy, just resistance against those who would control destiny itself. The entity paused, its advance halting as information flooded its consciousness. For the first time, it processed something other than threat assessment. It saw the UNSC, an entire civilization built on principles of cooperation, sacrifice, and mutual defense. It saw Kratos, living contradiction, destroyer of pantheons who chose protection over domination. It saw that the dimensional breach hadn't introduced corruption. It had introduced resistance. The entity's form shifted, solidified, resolved into something almost comprehensible. A massive crystalline structure that reflected light in ways that suggested intelligence rather than mere reaction. Analysis revised. Foreign elements demonstrate order. Dimensional contamination minimal. Integration possible. It's accepting us, Anders breathed. It's actually accepting us as part of 9 realms reality. The entity began to recede, but slowly, deliberately, as if ensuring they understood the terms of coexistence. Warning: dimensional framework remains unstable. Further breaches will trigger quarantine protocols. Maintain structural integrity. Do not expand beyond authorized parameters. "We hear you," Chief transmitted through the array. "We'll maintain stability. We're not here to conquer or corrupt, just survive until we can return home." "Acceptable. Survival is permitted. Reality structure will be monitored." The entity vanished, reality sealing behind it like wound healing, leaving only disturbed Earth and the fading echoes of cosmic judgment. The assembled forces stood in stunned silence, processing what had just occurred. They'd faced reality's immune system and convinced it not to destroy them, not through violence, through proof of their right to exist. Did we just negotiate with the universe itself? Buck asked, his usual humor subdued by genuine awe. "We proved we weren't the disease it thought we were," Chief replied. "Sometimes that's the only victory available." Lasky's voice came through, carrying exhaustion and relief. "All units, stand down. Casualty report. Miraculously, 0 fatalities. Apparently, reality's antibodies are more interested in containment than extermination." He paused. "Good work, everyone. UNSC, 9 realms allies, everyone who stood together when it mattered. We just survived something that by all rights should have erased us from existence." Kratos cleaned his weapons with practiced efficiency, his expression unreadable. "The primordial sentinel will watch us now. Any action that destabilizes the realms will bring it back, and next time it won't be merciful. We've been given one chance to prove we can coexist. Don't waste it." "We won't," Chief assured him. As the strange twilight descended on Midgard, the UNSC personnel and their 9 realms allies began the process of securing positions and tending equipment. The hell corruption still threatened. Other pantheons still watched with uncertain intent. The path home remained unclear, but they'd survived the worst threat yet, not through superior firepower or divine intervention, but through proving their fundamental worth. Through showing that even in a universe governed by gods and magic, there was room for beings who chose their own fate. The impossible alliance had passed its ultimate test. Master Chief stood on the Infinity's hull, watching stars that weren't from his universe. Beside him, Kratos maintained silent vigil. 2 warriors who understood that survival sometimes meant accepting help from unexpected sources. "You think we'll make it home?" Chief asked. "Perhaps," Kratos replied. "Perhaps you'll forge new home here. Perhaps fate has other plans entirely." He paused. "But I've learned that fighting fate is its own kind of victory. Keep fighting, Spartan. Whatever comes next, meet it with the same determination you've shown since arriving. That's the only way I know." "Good." Kratos allowed himself the faintest hint of respect. "Then maybe you'll survive this universe after all." The frozen winds of Midgard carried possibilities. Battles yet to fight, alliances yet to forge, mysteries yet to unravel. The UNSC had become part of the 9 realms story, their metal mountains now permanent features in the mythological landscape. The war for survival continued. But tonight, they'd won something precious. The right to keep fighting, the right to exist, the right to choose their own destiny despite gods, fate, and reality itself. And sometimes, that was enough. 6 months after the Infinity and Spirit of Fire crashed into the 9 realms, the impossible had become routine. The ships were mobile now, capable of traversing between realms through hybrid drives that merged human ingenuity with cosmic understanding. They hadn't found the path home that remained elusive, perhaps impossible. But they'd found something else: purpose, integration, a place in a universe that had initially tried to destroy them. The UNSC had become something unprecedented, a technological civilization operating within a mythological framework, proving that science and magic weren't opposites, but different languages describing the same fundamental truths. Spartan fire teams now deployed alongside Einherjar warriors. UNSC engineers collaborated with dwarven smiths. Professor Anders published papers that would never be read in her home universe, but revolutionized 9 realms' understanding of dimensional mechanics. The hell corruption had been pushed back, not eliminated, but contained. Combined task forces patrolled realm borders, UNSC sensors detecting breaches, while magical containment sealed them. It was imperfect, costly, but functional. Survival through cooperation, written in blood and determination. Master Chief stood in the Infinity's observation deck, watching Midgard's landscape scroll beneath them as the ship glided between realms. His armor bore new markings now, runic enhancements that Sindri had inscribed personally, grudging respect manifesting as protection enchantments. The mad dwarf had never forgiven Kratos, probably never would, but he'd found something like peace in creating beauty alongside those who understood the cost of survival. "Chief?" Lasky approached, his command tablet displaying fleet status. "We've received an invitation. The Egyptian pantheon wants to meet. Formal diplomatic contact. They're curious about us, concerned about our dimensional presence, but willing to negotiate." "Another pantheon," Chief observed. Another set of gods to prove ourselves to. Or another potential ally, Lasky countered. We've learned that much at least. Not every god is Modi. Not every civilization is hostile. He paused. Captain Cutter and I have been discussing long-term strategy. We might never make it home, Chief. The dimensional barrier between our universe and this one might be truly insurmountable. I know. So the question becomes, what do we do? Do we keep searching indefinitely? Or do we accept that this is home now? That the UNSC's future is here, in the 9 realms, building something new? Chief was silent for a long moment, watching the impossible geography of divine realms. We do both. We keep researching, keep trying to find the path back. But we don't put our lives on hold waiting. We adapt, we integrate, we build relationships with civilizations that exist here. If we find a way home tomorrow, great. If we're still here in 50 years, we'll have built something worth protecting. Spoken like someone who's accepted their fate. Not fate, Chief corrected. Choice. We choose to survive. Choose to make meaning out of impossible circumstances. That's what humans do. What Spartans do. What the UNSC has always done. Through the viewport, he saw the Spirit of Fire gliding alongside them, its hull bearing similar modifications. Spartan Red Team was deploying on some joint operation with Valkyries. Jerome had developed an unlikely friendship with Gundel, bonding over tactical discussions and shared combat experience. Elsewhere in the ship, Thrud trained UNSC personnel in magical threat recognition. Modi led combined forces against Hellwalker incursions, his arrogance tempered by near-death experience into something resembling competent leadership. Svein and his Dark Elves had established permanent liaison positions, their technological expertise invaluable for maintaining hybrid systems. And Kratos had vanished 3 weeks ago. No warning, no explanation, just gone. But Chief had learned enough about the God Killer to understand. Some warriors couldn't stay still, couldn't accept peace even when they'd earned it. The ghost of Sparta was out there somewhere, probably fighting something that threatened realms most beings didn't even know existed. Doing what he'd always done, protecting those who couldn't protect themselves, one brutal act of violence at a time. You think he'll come back? Lasky asked, following Chief's gaze toward the distant mountains where Kratos had last been seen. When he's needed, Chief replied. That's what warriors like us do. We leave when peace no longer requires us. We return when war demands it. And in between, we try to remember what it means to be more than weapons. A new alert chimed, not threat warning, but calendar notification. Chief pulled it up, surprised to find he'd actually set a personal reminder. It was the anniversary of his first day in the Spartan program. 41 years of military service. 41 years of being humanity's shield against impossible odds. But for the first time in decades, he wasn't fighting for survival. He was fighting for something more complex, coexistence, understanding, the possibility that different realities could learn from each other rather than destroy each other. Captain, Chief said, accept the Egyptian pantheon's invitation. Let's see if we can build something better than just another military alliance. Let's see if we can create actual peace. Lasky smiled, the expression carrying hope that had been absent during their desperate first weeks. You know, Chief, when we crashed here, I thought we'd lost everything. Our universe, our home, our purpose. Turns out we just had to redefine what those words meant. Home is where you fight to protect, Chief replied. Purpose is what you choose when destiny's chains are broken. We chose to survive, chose to integrate, chose to build rather than just destroy. That's enough. as the Infinity banked toward new horizons, carrying humanity's descendants into realms their ancestors could never have imagined. Master Chief allowed himself a moment of quiet reflection. They were lost, yes. Stranded in a universe governed by rules they barely understood, surrounded by gods, monsters, and beings that existed outside conventional reality. But they were alive. They were building alliances. They were proving that even in a cosmos of divine power and predestined fate, there was room for those who chose their own path. The 9 realms had tried to reject them, destroy them, quarantine them. Instead, the UNSC had become part of the tapestry. Foreign threads woven into an ancient pattern, creating something neither science nor magic alone could have achieved. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Not Modi's divine fury, but natural weather. A storm approaching, bringing rain to frozen earth, change to stagnant systems. The universe was vast, strange, and terrifying. But Master Chief had faced worse, and he was still standing. In the years that followed, legends would spread across the 9 realms. Stories of metal mountains that fell from beyond the stars. Warriors in green armor who fought like gods but claimed no divinity. A civilization that proved reality had room for more than one answer to life's fundamental questions. Some would call them heroes. Others would call them demons. Most would simply call them survivors, beings who refused to surrender even when the universe itself demanded their extinction. And in a cosmos where fate was supposedly written in stone, they proved something fundamental. The future belongs to those brave enough to write their own story. The UNSC had entered the 9 realms as refugees. They would remain as allies, defenders, and proof that even gods could learn from mortals who dared to dream beyond their station. The war for survival had become something greater, a war for coexistence, understanding, and the revolutionary idea that different realities could share the same space without destroying each other. It wouldn't be easy. It would never be finished. But it was worth fighting for. And that, in the end, was enough.